Thank you for keeping faith with us and staying for the news. In our first story, we talk politics. Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, is opposing a decision by national executives of the opposition National Democratic Congress to replace its leadership in Parliament. The party has chosen Member of Parliament for Ejumako Enyan Esiam as minority leader to replace Haruna Idrisu. But Alhaj Murtala Mohammed says this development looks like the party wants to force people on the MPs without recourse to due process. He's been speaking on Asempa FM's Ekosise.
Who did they consult? We are practicing a democracy. And this NDC, nobody in NDC is bigger than the NDC. I have never seen any parliament where a leadership of that parliament, particularly the caucus of the parliament, leadership is imposed on the caucus. What they should have done was to consult us. And all the experiences I have had and what I have gone through and what I read, usually they will propose to parliamentary caucus and the caucus will take a decision. Now, why would you impose leaders on us? The first question is, has anybody in parliament told the party or some members of the national executive that we are dissatisfied with our leadership? They need to tell us. Two, have they consulted or did they consult the leadership of even the caucus, even those who are taken out? My understanding is that they were not even consulted. I mean, natural justice demands that if you have leadership and you want to change them, call them. Look, for ABCD reason, we think that we want to change you people. They were not consulted. So it looks as if they are being hounded out. And that is why I think that it is not appropriate. And in any case, the timing is completely wrong. This is not the time we should be rocking the boat. This is not the time we should be engaging. As I talk to you now, there are the main issues that Ghanaians are preoccupied with. That restructuring, the Auditor General's report, these are of very important issues to the Ghanaian people. Now, we are having these discussions and boom, leadership have been changed without consulting the parliamentary caucus. I think it is undemocratic. I think that the democratic principles can hold in same. It is not limited to any political party. Everybody, including the NDC, must respect that. So in as much as I have tremendous respect for our party leadership, I think that they have gotten it completely wrong. The other question I ask is, at what forum was the decision taken? Was it fake? If it wasn't fake, who took that decision? If it was fake, some of us would want to see the minutes of the meeting that occasioned the decisions they have taken. We would want to know. And if we are asking this question, we are not being disrespectful to the leadership. That is what democracy expects us to do. We need to ask questions. Now, I have no doubt in the quality of leadership of parliament we have today.
Well, Chairman of the NDC, Johnson Esiedun-Ketia, explains the objective of their action is to achieve regional balance. He spoke to Blessed Soga on the Pulse.
We've issued a letter from headquarters signed by the General Secretary, the new General Secretary, Honorable Fifi Fiavi Kote, communicating formally to Mr. Speaker changes that we have made in our front line in Parliament. That is indeed true. And the new changes will bring on board Dr. Kesela Tuforsen as the new minority leader, Honorable Ama Kufibwa as the new deputy minority leader, and Honorable Governance Kwame Agboja as the new chief whip. And then we maintain Honorable Doyo Ganza and Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. So this make up the new list of leadership in Parliament.
There's the obvious question as to why the NDC is taking the decision now.
We started reorganization of our structures to be able to position ourselves to fight election 2024. And in terms of why, it means what it tells you is that the only constant thing in nature is change. And so since the environment is changing, leadership and many other things must change along the new environment. We know, for instance, that going into election 2024, the economy is going to be the major battleground. And so many of the debates and other discussions will focus on the economy. So you better put your best man in the economy forward. And that is what we've done. And then we also looked at energy, this petroleum and electricity challenges. And so we needed to settle on Kofi Amabua, our former minister, to be the deputy minority leader. And then the other area is infrastructure. And Kwame Ogboja being our man in infrastructure should play a key role. So that generally is what informed the changes. But there are other things that are coincidental. You take the leadership of Parliament, we are bound to organize ourselves in such a way that, by and large, we provide for regional balance and other balances in our ways of doing things. And so since it is very difficult to get representation of 16 regions in 5 appointments, you need to do a lot of mathematics. And our view is that the balance cannot be secured with only one segment of the party. So the elections have turned out certain leaders. We already have other leaders that are already existing. And then also, if we are doing appointments, we take all these as a whole to try and see how we can get a fair balance. When you look at Western region, it's one region that has not been represented on the front bench for a long while. I remember when we were in 92, thereabout, 93, thereabout, that we put somebody on the front bench for a while, and that ended it. So it's a significant region that we need to look at. So when we got the combination of Kofi Amabua from Western region, and he being also very conversant with the energy sector, we thought that it was a good choice, so we put him there.
Well, on to the next story, and the minority in Parliament is asking government to complete the much-touted Agenda 111 hospitals. President Akufo-Addo in 2020 promised to build 101 new district hospitals, 6 regional hospitals, and 2 specialized hospitals in 12 months during the period that Ghana recorded a number of COVID-19 cases. 2 years on, none of the facilities has been completed, and the president has shifted the timelines to the end of his tenure in 2024. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has been touring some of these sites with the minority MPs.
These hospitals were touted by President Akufo-Addo as a game changer for Ghana's fight against future pandemics and epidemics. This was also to enable government cater for places without health facilities. But 2 years on, since this promise was made, none of the hospitals has been completed, and the minority are growing impatient.
It's one of the projects that they pump the COVID money into, and also per our records, they have given this contractor not less than $1 million US. $1 million US as at January 2022. And we are in January 2023. And there is no contractor on site. Mind you, if anybody has captured anything, there are no contractor on site. These are just trucks who are coming to take their stones and go away. So there is no contractor on site. This is Kwabrakwa. And per our records, this contractor has been paid not less than $1 million US. There are other subcontractors who have been paid. I can see here, Gale Limited have been paid almost $81,000. I think that the commitment to the Agenda 111 is not there. They have only set out to, set out a lot of uncompleted sites. so that they will push the burden on future governments. So that is, oh, we started this. When elections are approaching, they will say, oh, we started this, your hospital. Vote for us to come to power so that when we come, we'll come and complete. I have said these over and over and over again.
Kwabena Minta Akando says only a handful of these hospitals can be completed by 2024.
Most of the contractors have been given mobilization to go to site, including this contractor has been given mobilization. And mobilization of not less than $1 million has been given to the contractor to go to site. Now, this is the state of affairs on site. So, when the president said that during the 2023 budget review, we demanded that the Agenda 111 Secretariat appeared before the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health. When they came, they told us, and they are on record, and I can show you, that they are saying that the Agenda 111 can only be handed over to this nation after 2027, not 2024. In fact, they stated that if anything at all, at best, they can do 20% before 2024.
As the controversy surrounding government's expenditure using funds mobilized for COVID-19 rages on, this is one of the sites of the Agenda 111 hospitals that President Akufo-Addo promised to complete in 12 months. The timeline has now shifted to 2024, but the minority insists government will not be able to do so. Indeed, they've been showing some documents to prove that government will not be able to complete all the Agenda 111 hospitals across the country until after 2027. And they say government has shown no commitment so far to complete the projects. And what they've just done is some form of political gimmick. And so this is the Akakpo site. Prior to this, we had been to another site, Kwabena, where there was literally no work done on site apart from a big pit that have been dug. But here you can see some columns which shows that some work can take off from here. Reporting from Akakpo in the Ashanti region, Kweku Asante for JoyNews.
Let's go now to the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, which has served notice it will crack the whip on institutional heads who fail to eliminate ghost names from their payroll as it begins sanitization of public sector workers' payroll. Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, Bernice, says as the 30% base pay increment on the single spine salary structure takes effect, it's imperative that government also get value for its money. Hence, the Commission will be demanding a performance assessment.
Is to advise government on performance management indicators and to be able to link pay to productivity. But going straight to productivity could be problematic because you have to really sit down, develop indices, the culture of the people. You must make sure people are sensitized, people have learned how to go about it and rest. But as for performance management measurement, it's already in the system. That has been piloted for quite some time. So what we're going to do is basically to support Public Services Commission to oversee that activity. And then when you are measured, the score will be given to us. And then we will be guided by the score. Because there's a pay structure that you need to move on. So as you move on the pay structure, I don't want to be very technical. As you move on the pay structure, we want to have your coordinates, your location. And we are saying that your location on the pay structure, apart from on the vertical, which is by promotion and grade, and on the horizontal, it has to be informed by your performance. And we all agree to that. So we need to pilot it.
Now, the Swiss ambassador to Ghana wants a concerted effort to rope in more girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Simone Giga says Ghana stands a chance of leveraging the talents of young individuals to propel the country's development. She made these comments when the organizers of the Ghana Science, Technology and Explorer Prize called on her at her residence in Accra. There's more in this report.
We all know about the problems plastic waste causes in our country.
They are a team of girls with a solution to the plastic menace in Ghana.
My team and I decided to come up with a way of using plastics, recycled plastics, in creating something.
These ladies are daring to be Africa's great innovators and inventors with a firm focus on tackling societal challenges. Alpha S is one of the teams participating in this year's Ghana Science, Tech and Explorer Prize, G-STEP. Ahead of the G-STEP exhibition and awards ceremony, organizers of the competition, Dream Oval and Foundation Botna, called on the Swiss ambassador to Ghana. The meeting afforded the Dream Oval Foundation, among other things, the opportunity to support the G-STEP initiative. In an interview with Joy Prime, Simone Gaija, the Swiss ambassador to Ghana, stated that Ghana needs to start training its next generation of women in science. This, she believes, is the surest way to propel the country's development.
If you want to develop and grow any country, you have to tap into your entire pool of talent. So it's very important that you don't forget about girls. It's 50% of your population. And if you think that talent is in a way equally distributed among the population, it's just from that pure fact, it's absolutely crucial that we have girls in mind.
Madame Simone Gaija said that the initiatives such as the G-STEP Challenge must be encouraged to sustain the interest of girls in science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
But we have to start somewhere. And I think with G-STEP, what they did, it's really, they had girls in the focus. So they said, we need an equal balance. We need to have at least as many girls as boys. It's worth making the extra effort, working the extra mile to include girls.
Lead for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation at Foundation Botna urged stakeholders in the education sector to maximize the potential of the youth.
The program has demonstrated till now is there's no shortage of potential and ideas among the young people of Ghana. So they can use the STEM skills, the collaboration skills, the digital thinking skills, the critical thinking skills, and the skills that are needed for success in 21st century.
Project consultant at the Dream Oval Foundation, Francis Ahin Afo, is optimistic about the prospects of the G-STEP Challenge participants.
For us, it's rather the beginning of the teams that have participated, because we have a collaboration with Ashesi. Ashesi is looking to involve some of these young people in their AIX program to pursue or continue their path towards the STEM agenda. So it is not the end, it is the beginning of good things to come. We are seeking other collaborations with other institutions as well to see how best we can support these young people to continue with what they are working on, to continue with their chosen path towards STEM and practical learning.
Meanwhile, the G-STEP exhibition and awards ceremony is slated for January 25th, 2023 at the Accra International Conference Center.
Well, up next, the government is expected to spend $31.4 million on what it calls post-COVID-19 skills development and productivity enhancement projects. The project is a 5-year agreement signed with the African Development Bank. There is more in this report put together by Jacqueline Ansoma Yabua.
The Post-COVID-19 Skills Development and Productivity Project is an initiative by the government of Ghana launched on Tuesday in Accra. The tax manager of the African Development Bank, Eko Patience Ogoma, indicated that the project would encompass 3 major areas which will be undertaken within 5 years. The project is expected to contribute to Ghana's sustainable post-COVID-19 recovery in the health sector and the restoration of livelihoods, income and employment opportunities and private sector development.
The project components are 3. The first component will deal with skills development in higher education for strengthening the health sector, and this requires the construction of 3 facilities. Component 2 will be rebuilding youth and women's livelihood through entrepreneurship and employment creation. We will also do provision of entrepreneurial skills among youth, women, and vulnerable groups. We also have the project management component.
Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Ignatius Bafoewa, disclosed that several agencies have been assigned to ensure execution of this project.
Higher level skill training now, University of Ghana is championing that. And you know, so when it comes to training at the highest level, academia, they have their own structure and their own internal controls to make sure that such programs succeed. And all the other ones which are not under the tertiary level, so we have Social Investment Fund, which since 1998 has been in existence and has been implementing such programs, implementing it. And they have the requisite experience to be able to do that. Besides that, Ministry of Finance is the main implementing agency. They have their eye on the project and they will keep on monitoring the project.
Head of the African Development Bank desk at the Ministry of Finance, Emmanuel Fujo, disclosed that the Ministry of Finance would improve its monitoring to guarantee that monies to be allocated to the project are used judiciously.
They have all spelled out in clear terms what they are going to use the money to do. I indicated that at the Ministry of Finance, we are going to step up our monitoring and supervision role to make sure that the intended purposes for this money is achieved. $1 has been released for A. You make sure that we follow through the flow from wherever and make sure that at the grassroots level it is done.
The government of Ghana believes this initiative will create more jobs for the youth in Ghana. Jacqueline Azumayebo's report for Joy News.
And that's how we sew it up for the news. Up next, the news review. Do stay. A very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us as we get into the newspapers and lots of stories, loads of them to get into this morning. But you must have heard about the situation in the National Democratic Congress and the reshuffle of their leadership in Parliament, whether according to the books, whether they're going by the books or not. This is what we see so far. And the new minority leader, as per what we have for now, Dr. Cassio Ato-Forson, representing the Central Region, as some have put it. What is your take on that? You can share with us via our live stream. And of course, there have been both sides to this discussion. Well, joining us for a discussion on these and other matters, we have Dr. Kwame Asante. He is a political science lecturer, University of Ghana, and he also is director for the Center for European Studies. Doc, good morning. Good to have you once more.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you too.
Let's start with that issue. It's in the papers and all of that. I heard you yesterday speak about it, and the Ghanaian Times reflects it. It says, minority reshuffles front bench. Dr. Ato-Forson replaces Haruna Idrisu. Agboja takes over from Muntaka. Let me just get into that story on page 9 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and then we can elaborate a bit on it. So the story says, the opposition National Democratic Congress has shuffled its leadership in Parliament, bringing in Dr. Cassio Ato-Forson to replace Haruna Idrisu as minority leader. Dr. Forson, MP at Jumako Enyan Esian constituency in the Central Region, would be deputized by Emmanuel Amakofibua, the fourth-term member for Elembele. Adaklu MP governs. Kwame Agboja would replace Asanwase, Member of Parliament, Alhaj Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka as minority chief whip. But there's more. First and second deputy minority whips, Ahmed Ibrahim, MP for Banda and Comfort Doyo Ganza Adan, retain their positions. In a statement signed by the party's General Secretary, Fifi Fiavi Kwete in Accra yesterday, said further changes within the ranks of the caucus would be effected in due course. I listened to you yesterday. What are the pros and cons of such a decision? Some have said you don't change midstream. Some have said the MPs should have been involved more. Esiedun Ketia, the chairman, told us they were involved, but not all of them. And he also says opinions are like, pardon my French, panties or underwear. Everyone has one. What is your take?
Yeah, Ben, good morning to you again, and then to your listeners as well. If you look at what has happened, for me as a student of politics, it's not new. We'll continue to see changes in the political landscape from time to time. So it doesn't matter the time that it comes in. But to start straight away, right? Is there any rule, any constitution or document that spells out how changes ought to be made relative to position in parliament, all right, with regard to NDC? Is it anything like that? All right. Listen to some of the leaders there. There is none. All right. If there is none, then it means that the leadership can engage in other processes or other methods that will yield the results that they desire. But as a democratic, party, we would have expected them to be able to, build consensus, take the decision, bringing everybody on board, those who matter, into the picture. But that didn't happen. That is unfortunate, because this is at the heart of, democratic decision. But having said this, the party also has a duty. Every political party owes it to itself to win power and form the next government. So if that is the stand of every political party, then obviously they will do what is in their interest or in their view, the best that will really reflect the situation. So they have decided to change the leadership of parliament. From their side, there is nothing wrong with that. Let us remember that before Mr. Haruna and his team came into office, there were people also in office, and then they changed them. Politicians, I'm sure they are aware that they are nothing but bears of passage.
But this time it's midstream, and that is what some people find to be problematic. We're getting into an electoral year next year, and some say changing the entire field at this time. In fact, Tamale MP, one of the Tamale areas, I don't know whether it's Tamale Central,
yeah, that is
Murtala Mohammed, says, look, doing this at this point in time, especially when you have some of the most experienced hands in Haruna Idrisu and Alhaj Muntaka, will not inure to the benefit of the party. What's your take on that?
The timing, there is nothing wrong with that. If remember that political parties, giving their structure, they are able to pick signals that you and I we have no idea of. So you don't know what has informed this decision. But from me, as a student of politics, one thing that I see clearly is that they want to really package themselves very well, put themselves in a position that they will be able to battle the 2024 election head on. So the time is now for them to take important decisions. Look at the leadership of parliament from their side. It's all nodness. Is that the case that this is a true, a mass party? Mass party reflect the views and aspirations of all ethnic groups within the state at whatever level.
So pardon the interjection. So you're referring to the fact that the National Executive Committee, the neck of the party, is led by a northerner. Parliament was also headed by a northerner in the person of the minority leader, the former president, of course, who likely will lead the party again.
Yes, let's also add, Mr. Speaker, today he's neutral because he's a Speaker of Ghana, but he came from within the NDC. So you have all the leadership being nodness. Is it the case that this is a true reflection of a mass party? No. So for me, if they change this, now they have brought somebody from Central Region. Remember the contribution of Central Region to NDC in terms of their political fortunes. Immense. Look at Greater Accra. They brought the lady in there, and it also satisfied the gender equation. All right. Not only that, we are talking about Volta Region, which is a stronghold of the NDC and was not represented in terms of the leadership of parliament. Massa, what more do you expect the leadership to do? They brought this. And for me, I applaud that decision. What is more is that they are looking at infrastructure conversation. It is the second most important variable that influences voter choices. That if you look at the directive principle of state policy, it's captured there clearly, and that you need infrastructure throughout the country and all that. And they want to put in somebody who articulates their views on that clearly. Remember that the economy is the most important variable for, influencing voter choices. And they are saying that they want to put their last bet on what? Atto Forson, who has over the years championed the cause for them. And in that position, he will be more emboldened to take very drastic decisions and all that. All that we have said, people forget about the fact that we also want to assess them. I mean, from what the performance, there's no doubt that Mr. Haruna Iddrisu and co have lived up to expectation. They perform creditably well. But there's nothing wrong if we want to change the team and bring in more, introduce more energy into the system. Look at the team in Parliament, Haruna Iddrisu's team. They've been able to get a speaker from their side to lead Parliament. They've been able to throw away the budget, portions of them. They've criticized issue of e-levy and all that. Cathedral, they are championing the argument. But it is equally important for us to also look at some of the pitfalls. One, I heard Mr. Iddrisu himself saying that their, oversight responsibility, they have not performed that creditably. Recently, he himself admitted to that. That if you look at the debt burden that we have, they approve loans for the government and all that. This is one of the things that also goes against them. Not only that, they themselves came out and then said that the e-levy, they are going to, throw it away and not all that. In the last minute, somebody disappeared. That is the role of what? The whip. Was he able to whip people to line and all that? So it's not a simple matter that we are looking at. But we are saying that if we are practicing a democracy, let the rules of democracy prevail so that always consensus is the key, so that the rules of the game are held, and that in all things you build an institution that will stand the test of time. But that doesn't take away the party decision to put themselves in a position that they will be able to win power and then form the next government.
So you're saying two things at the same time. It's like a double-edged sword. In terms of procedural matters, they could have done it better. But when it comes to the ultimate, and of course, as your former student, and all of us being students of politics, the intention, the main objective of any political party is to secure power and then bring to bear their own plans, for the country. And so if that will inure to the benefit of the party as they see it, then it must be done. That's what you're saying.
Why not? You and I were taught by Harold Laswell that who gets what, when and how. Who allocates resources, and for what reason. Politics is not a funfair. You are in for serious business, and that you need to put yourself in a position that will give you the heads up. That's all.
Let's get into some other stories. And so NDC National Deputy Secretary given rousing welcome at Dambai, and Mr. Mustapha Foyo Bande, National Deputy Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, has received a rousing welcome at Dambai in the Karachi East municipality of the Oti region after his recent victory. Mr. Bande and his entourage were welcomed with songs from the people who lined up the streets. Scores of youth met the Deputy Secretary on the outskirts of Dambai and led him into town. Mr. Bande first paid a courtesy call on the Chief of Dambai, Nana Kweku Bieno II. And in his remark at the Chief's Palace, Mr. Bande appealed to all new patriotic members in the region to join the NDC to accelerate rapid development. That's really the point I wanted to highlight in this. If only the parties could work hand in glove, then we'll be able to see even more development. Let's get into some other stories. And 10.4 million Ghana cedi procurement breach scandal. OSP drags NDA CEO and 3 others to court. I followed this story, and it makes for very interesting reading, how a contract had additional documents inserted and all of that. But let's get to the story. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has filed criminal charges related to procurement breaches totaling 10.4 million Ghana cedis, involving the former chief executive of the Northern Development Authority and 3 others at the Tamale High Court Criminal Division. They are Smaila Abdul Rahman, 56, Stephen Yer Egu Engman, 50, Deputy Chief Executive in charge of Operations, NDA, and Patrick Seidu, 50, Deputy NDA in charge of Finance, and Andrew Kundari, 65, the Chief Executive of A&Q's Consortium Limited, 2019 to 2022. The special prosecutor, Mr. Kisie Jabeng, who signed the writ, said the 4 acted together with a common purpose of directly or indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain an unfair advantage for A&QS Consortium Limited in the award to that consortium of a procurement contract by NDA under the implementation of the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program to increase without lawful authority the total contract sum of 5.72 million Ghana cedis as approved by the Public Procurement Authority to an amount of 10.4 million. Interestingly, the three figureheads or arrowheads of this entire enterprise claim they are not aware of the same document that brings to bear the 10.4 million Ghana cedis. And we see so many of these from time to time. Why I find this so interesting, Doc, is that it came up, it took the likes of Martin Kpebu to bring it up, to call on the president. Nothing was done for quite a while. Then the OSP was brought into the fray, and now we hear this. Your take on that in light of the recent report of the Auditor General, which also shows quite a bit of rot going on administratively across the board?
Yeah, if you look at this story, the good news is that they are appropriate forum. All right, that is the court. We'll see how it unfolds, and then later we'll talk about it when the court has finished its business.
Right, let's get into some other stories now. 3,000 Bongo residents set to gain employment and the community mining scheme. Missing twins saga. 37 military hospital apologizes to couple, claims scans were incorrect. Now, this is an interesting twist to the story, and I have to take it. I don't know whether you followed the initial bit, but let me walk you through this, Doc. The 37 military hospital in Accra has said that the ultrasound scans conducted on a woman before delivery were error-ridden. According to the hospital, the error was detected after further inquisition into the missing twin saga. This disclosure comes 5 days after the Ghanaian Times investigative story published on Wednesday, January 18, 2023. The hospital has therefore apologized to the couple and said the issue would serve as a wake-up call to the hospital, promising to release the result of an investigative report to the family this Friday. These were the outcomes of a meeting held on Monday with senior military officers, including the Chief of Staff at the General Headquarters of the Ghana Armed Forces, Major General Nicholas Peter Ando, and the family of Daniel Nau, husband of the woman who was expecting twins, for a briefing at the Burma camp in Accra. So this is the latest development, but guess what? Before this, we had two instances at a private facility and at the 37 military hospital, where ultrasound scans had showed that the woman was carrying twins. The woman delivers at the 37 military hospital, and only one child is brought to her. And the parents or the couple cries foul. That is what has led to this, and they wanted to take on the matter. But now the 37 military hospital is saying, we actually made an error. We ought to look into this. I know they've sent the umbilical cord and a number of things to other places for, I think, Italy or something for checks. But did the private facility also err? And what really happened? I don't know, but what is your take on this? Because we've seen similar, bits from other hospitals. I don't want to mention them because this is not their issue for now.
Yeah, it is very unfortunate that they said that it's error. All right, this is life and death business, and they need to take it seriously. All right, we have heard the stories across the length and breadth of this country from certain hospitals and all that. And the least we expected from 37 is what has happened, that they say it was error and all that. So nobody double check and all that. I think it's unfortunate. They need to step up their game. And I commend the family for taking the battle forward. All of us will learn lessons from it. And now we will also police the system. Sometimes we as a society, we tend to be a little docile in some of these things. But if you get the courage, you'll be able to have your rights restored. So I think 37 military hospital, they need to do better. These stories are becoming one too many, and we don't want a repeat of this. It is a very important facility for health delivery in this country. And if this is how they want to go, then we will have problems all the time. And I am also not sure that that is what they stand for. So going forward, I urge them to do the right thing so that all of us I will be happy with their service.
On the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, KNDA embarks on reconstruction of major roads, and the Krachi and Chumuru District Assembly has embarked on reconstruction of the major roads in the district to open up the area for easy transportation of food crops to market centers. You can check out further details in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. But on now to the Daily Guide. Asiedun Ketia fires Haruna Muntaka in NDC coup. That's how it's been referred to. I saw a presidential staffer refer to it as President Mahama's second coup d'etat. I don't know where that is coming from, but of course he has a book, My First Coup d'etat, so I guess it's a play on that. And it's interesting because some say it happened because the minority leader had been touting Mahama, and now others are also saying that it's Mahama, the former president, who seems to have instigated this. Of course, usually you'd hear a lot of this talk, but like we've seen, what inures to the benefit of the party, and that, from what you've said, is what is being done. But other stories, AG hits Collins Dauda, 4 others with new charges. Alex Mold Gavivina took off 5 million Ghana CD ex-Maslock boss bail. That story has been in the picture since yesterday. And 2 cathedral board members demand project suspension. Let's take a quick look at some of these stories. Starting from page 3. The Office of the Attorney General has filed 70 new charges against former Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, Alhaji Collins Dauda, who doubles as NDC MP for Esutufe South in the Ahafo region, and 4 others involved in the $200 million Saglemi housing project scandal. That's what the paper calls it. I think what is even more scandalous, even if there were scandals in the past, what is even more scandalous, what is even more egregious, what is even more distasteful and very, very insensitive to the Ghanaian people is the fact that we have left Saglemi to rot, and now we are thinking of Asenso Boache, the Works and Housing Minister, bring in a private investor. If the private people can do it, why can't the public entity, government, do it? We're sick in this country. We're sick. But let me continue with the story. Alhaji Dauda, together with 4 others, were initially charged with 52 counts relating to intentionally misapplying public property, contrary to Section 1.2 of the Public Property Protection Act 1977, SMCD 140, willfully causing financial loss to the Republic, contrary to Section 179A3A of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, that is Act 29, among others. But the prosecution yesterday withdrew the old charge sheet and filed in its place a new one made up of 70 charges of willfully causing financial loss to the state, issuing false certificates contrary to Sections 1 and 2 of the Government Contracts Act, and dishonestly causing loss to public property, contrary to Section 2.1 of the Public Protection Act. Let's go now to page 6 of the paper. Alex Mold Gavivina took off 5 million Ghana cedi ex-Maslock boss bail. So basically these 2 stood surety for the ex-Maslock boss who's been out of town on medical health reasons. And now, since she's not appearing for about over a year, they are being held liable for the 5 million Ghana cedi bail. And it's said that their property would have to be sold if they cannot cough up the money. But let's wrap with this one. 2 members of the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams of Action Chapel International and Reverend Eastwood Anaba of Eastwood Anaba Ministries, have called for the suspension of the construction of the project. Why? According to the duo, this is to pave the way for an audit to be carried out by an independent firm into all public funds contributed and spent towards the project in the spirit of transparency and accountability to Ghanaians. The call comes after the NDC MP for North Tong, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, exclusively revealed that some 2.6 million Ghana cedis was paid to a company owned by Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng, who is the Secretary of the Board of Trustees, under questionable circumstances. We've also seen in respect of Kusi-Boateng that while I thought initially there was only one tin at play, tax identification number, now we're told there are 2. His mother also has 2 different names. It's a whole mess of a situation. Quick reactions to these stories, Doc.
I'll touch on the cathedral.
Right.
I think I'll take the opportunity to salute the 2 men of God. All right. They've done as good. Looking at the conversation, they are saying that, look, it is important for us to do audits and then suspend the project. That is how it ought to be. We are not against a facility like that. but we are in difficult times. Our priorities must set right. If you look at all these things and we don't have people who can stand up and then speak for the vulnerable, the needy, whose money is part of this public policy, all right, then it's unfortunate. So I salute them that they're saying, look, let's take a break, even though we support this project. Let's do audit and see how much the taxpayer is doling out in terms of contribution to this project. A great one, because we want to ensure value for money and that we are in difficult times. Let's suspend. When we return to normalcy, we will take it from there. For me, that is what it should be. People should do away with emotions and all that and come to the reality, and that we are in very difficult times. So the little money that we can save to build something solid that our state can hinge on to have a breather, it is important than unnecessary banter that doesn't give us any hope at all. I salute them.
How do you react? Because even after this has been brought up, there have been comments about how it's being done. Bright Simmons on Twitter, I saw him put this up yesterday, says, an audit by a corporate auditor to examine the books of the National Cathedral based on narrow terms of reference is not necessarily a public interest audit. Shraj must take over alongside parliamentary inquiries chaired by the non-government side. And there is talk about the fact that it should be done by an independent body and that some institution should be neutral, and that some institution may be working for government, have been working for government for a while, which may compromise whatever audit may emerge from here. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think Bright is right. We need some neutrals to be in there. For me, the crux of the matter is that realization has come to them, and now they want to take this step. Then we need to do the needful by adding all the neutrals so that whatever comes out, it will not be in doubt. That is all. If we are able to do this, we'll have confidence within the system, and then we know what has gone wrong and how to rectify it. That's it.
Very quickly, with the Ghanaian publisher, it talks about the NDC situation, also about the NDA situation. But Jinapo pushes for responsible mining as he launches Bongosoe community mining scheme. That's the Lansah Natural Resources Minister. Frema charges SOEs to prioritize audited account management. Let's just take a quick look at that. I will not delve into the story, but our state-owned enterprises, already we've heard talk about a new airline for Ghana and all of that, and people are making mention of what has happened in the past. Our SOEs, by and large, are simply not delivering. They are part of our problem in this country. And sometimes you see heads, CEOs of entities that are not delivering anything, in fact, are in the negative and in the red, so to speak, and yet they are giving themselves fat bonuses and the rest. Will this solve the problem? Audited account management. I mean, what comes to mind when you think of our SOEs, Doc?
I think we need the people with the right frame of work to head these institutions and stop putting party apparatchiks in there. I mean, they don't do anybody any good, all right? This country, our problem is that we always want to, go with a spoiled system, and that you want patronage, you want party people. If you extend it, it is to cronies and then family and all that. Yes, I admit that we cannot do without these people, but as Aristotle cautioned us, in moderation, taking into consideration our interests. All right, let's put the right people there, give them the resources, and then monitor their work. More often than not, one of our problems is that we don't monitor, we don't evaluate people who have given them mandate to see whether they are living up to expectation. The time we realize we are at the tail end of the program, which has not yielded anything. That is our bane. The earlier we stood our grounds on that, the better it will be for everybody.
The new crusading guide now, NDC is ready for Dr. Kwabena Dufour's tour. That's according to a group. Sack NDA boss, pressure mounts on government to sack Smaila Abdul Rahman over OSP criminal charge. There's also NPP decides Alan ropes in the clergy. We see him pictured here with some, I don't know whether to call them men of God, because some of the people I see in there, but you can call them men of the cloth. Everyone carrying a reverend name is seen to be a man of God, but we also know there are so many charlatans in there. I've not mentioned anyone's name. Anyway, so that's the new crusading guide. And there's also the Daily Statesman, tension rocks NDC over coup in quotation marks against Haruna Muntaka as minority leaders. There's also Bright SHS strikes deal with top Canadian college, and SP charges NDA CEO and 2 deputies. Basically, a regurgitation of the stories that we've already taken a look at. Anything you'd like to take a swipe at before we move on, Doc?
Yeah. You touched briefly on Auditor General's reports. All right. I am getting worried by the day. If you look at the previous reports that we have seen in this country and continue to see, I ask myself whether we are a serious people. All right. We are going to look for money from the IMF, yet we have given so much in terms of money towards the fight against COVID-19. And all of them, most of the resources given to us, we did not manage them properly. What is the guarantee that what we are going to get, all right, we'll manage it well? The effective capacity of the state is gradually eroding, all right? And it seems to me that people that we have entrusted our, political office into their hands are taking us for granted. I think going forward, we have to look at some of these things and then, use them as a guide for our next choices of what leadership of this country. I think that is the only way out that we can salvage the economy and the very important things that we cherish and we are proud of. Otherwise, we will continue to come back, look at some of these things, go and sleep, and our state will be the loser at all times.
The Chronicle newspaper now, as we get ready to wind down, it's interesting how they capture the NDC situation. NDC use Haruna Muntaka and dump them. That's what the banner headline is. And here is Haruna's reaction. He says, "Never let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be. I will forever serve my country." Never let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be. I will forever serve my country. And the quote from the Chronicle today, Genesis 40 verse 23, they always try to tie it to one of the stories. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. So interesting the way the Chronicle newspaper puts it. But we've also heard the former minority leader, if we can put it that way, talk about serving the party in all capacities. So we'll see how that pans out. The custodian reject anti-government aspirants, COCA to NPP delegates. And of course, there's also that trending NDC story. Finally, the Meridian newspaper discussed party problems internally. Again, COCA to the NPP. An affordable housing case, Collins Dauda, 4 others slapped with 70 fresh charges. I'll just wrap, since all these stories are ones that we've seen already. The Daily Dispatch, NDC presses 2024 self-destruct button. Analyst says so. Changes in minority leadership surprising. That's according to Inusa Fuseni. And Asiyedun Ketia on changes in minority leadership. There's also Volta MP demands explanation into change in minority leadership. It's all about the politics in the Daily Dispatch. Quick reactions, Doc, in some 30 seconds, and we'll go.
Yes, I'll look at the minority leadership that has changed in Parliament. I don't think the NDC want to punish anybody. No. Change is always critical when the need arises. It is something that politicians should never gloss over that, right? It will come. And I don't see that the party want to punish anybody, all right? They put you in a position. And today they said, thank you for your service. Come and relax.
Someone was removed for you to get there. And you've been removed for someone else.
So I find it so strange that look at even the reaction in Tamale. But for the Tamale, I'm not surprised. We have seen that and that I'm saying this not to say that Mr. Haruna is behind that. No. But when Professor Mills was there and he appointed people, and that time he had not appointed Mr. Haruna, all right, we saw that disturbances in the same area. And for me, as a political watcher, I've watched with concern that should not be the. Otherwise, then some people want to hijack the party. All right. It's a mass party, for Christ's sake, and that the party has the right to take any decision. If people feel dissatisfied with that party's decision, they know the channels, appropriate channels to use. But to hold the party to ransom, to threaten the party, to hijack the party, I don't think is the way to go. So those who, argue that way, those who go on their own to, the disturbance and all that will not help anybody. Let them also think that once they have new leadership, they need to support the party. Otherwise, they will fail and they fail together. And then the consequence will be there for all of them. It is in their interest to support the leadership and let the leadership battle the 2024 head on.
Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us for this refreshing review this morning. And as always, we wish you the best of the day and the rest of the week. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, lecturer at the University of Ghana, also director of the Center for European Studies. Before we go, today is a beautiful day for me. It's my own mother, Susie Akakpo's birthday. My message to you this morning, thank you, Ma, for giving us life, the gift of faith, for showing us so much love, and for being our pillar in life as a single mother. Thank you most of all for being our mom. We love you and pray for long life, strength, grace, hope, everything positive for you. And for those who may want to read into it because I said single mother, it's only because my father passed a bit early. So, Ma, thank you so much for life. God richly bless you for another year and have all the best. It's from me and Anthony to you. On that note, we settle for sports up next. Do stay.
Mainstream media and on social media giving us an indication that the National Democratic Congress, as a political party, has reaching to the Speaker of Parliament to make some changes in your leadership in terms of Parliament. What is the true story from the perspective of the leadership of the NDC?
Thank you very much. It is true. We've issued a letter from headquarters signed by the General Secretary, the new General Secretary, Honorable Fifi Fiavi Kote, communicating formally to Mr. Speaker changes that we have made in our front line in Parliament. That is indeed true. And the new changes will bring on board Dr. Kesela Tuforsen as the new minority leader, Honorable Ama Kufibwa as the new deputy minority leader, and Honorable Governance Kwame Agboja as the new chief whip. And then we maintain Honorable Doyo Ganza and Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. So this make up the new list of leadership in Parliament.
There's the obvious question as to why the NDC is taking the decision now.
Well, there are two questions. Why we are taking the decision and why now? And I guess the answer is the same. We started reorganization of our structures to be able to position ourselves to fight election 2024. We started that more than a year ago. We started at the branch level. We've since done elections in about 40,000 branches. And then from there, we proceeded to constituency level. We've done
I'm sure you know, having seen that footage, that we're gearing up for a discussion on the NDC's internal party politics as it's playing out in Parliament. Welcome back on the AM show. I am joined by Bernice Abubeidu Lansah.
Good morning to you.
Wagwan. Ja.
Hey, I'm good. Good morning to you. A surprise. Did we see this coming? Did you see this coming?
There had been some snippets. It had been in the, on the grapevine, people had been speaking about it.
But this was quite a surprise. And we all know the reactions that have come in. But there's a lot more to look at and a lot more to digest. Is this really all about election 2024? Or there's something more to it?
Is there an undercurrent?
Exactly.
People have said, Haruna Idrisu has been a bit outspoken when it comes to touting the former president. Some hinted that, it could have been, but it's really so far-fetched. Others have said that, listen, this could also be the former president. There has been some. It's just so unclear. But Esiedun Ketia put it aptly. He says, this is for the sake of the party. Dr. Kasele Atoforsen for economics, Bua on matters of energy and all of that, the other one for infrastructure. We are positioning ourselves for the crucial conversations that will come up ahead of election 2024.
Well, to help us digest the issues further, Professor Ransford Jampo, political scientist at the University of Ghana, joins us. And we'll also be joined by Roxin Dafiamepo, who is an MP for South Dai, belonging to the NDC party. And we'll also have Kofi Adams, MP for Buem, who also belongs to the party and a former executive. But let me start with you, Prof. I mean, does this also come as a surprise to you, or you are part of the privileged few who saw this coming?
How do you imagine that I'll be part of the privileged few, because I am not a member of them.
Maybe you have a crystal ball, and because you have your finger on the pulse of what is happening, maybe you heard something.
Well, because you're a political scientist as well, and these things, you know how information goes round. So,
well, I haven't been too happy with the performance of the leadership of the minority caucus, particularly in the area of they helping Parliament to perform, they helping this current Parliament to perform its role as a truly countervailing authority to the powers of the executive arm of government. We all had a lot of hopes that, given that Parliament is now of equal strength, they were going to assess themselves very well to ensure that the executive arm of government is held in check. What they did and did so well was how they, for the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic, managed to get a speaker who is not from the ruling party to be elected, and we applauded that. Going forward, we thought that we were going to sustain that kind of rule. But it appears that they have tended to give a certain higher expectation to the public of what they will be doing. And then when it mattered most, they disappointed. There are several examples, I'm sure. You know what I'm talking about. In, for instance, Kenoboriata on S, for instance, you remember, they were the ones who came to tell us that they are not going to support his election. And yet, when they had to vote, they voted for him. When they also went on the tangent on vote.
But to be fair, Professor Jampo, there have always been situations that have, called for some national outlook rather than a partisan outlook. When you call for the times when, in some way, they have supported the finance minister, it has been on the national, table, wouldn't you say?
No, please. I'm talking from what has happened, and we have empirical evidence. Were they not the ones who came to tell us that they were the man was not fit for purpose, and that we were going to vote against him? Didn't you hear? Were you not in Ghana? You had them out there, but then when they had to vote, they voted in a manner that was opposite to what they had told us. You know it. And when it came to vote of censure, they tabled it. But they could not oversee the logical conclusion of that motion. This and other allied issues that they gave us hope that they were going to hold the executive arm of government in check. You said it publicly, and yet when it mattered most, they voted in a manner that went contrary to the expectations that it had whipped up, in the minds and in the minds and the hearts of many Ghanaians. And so for me, I was looking up to a certain reshuffle that would bring about their true role, or help them to show their true role as countervailing authority in the hands, countervailing authority of a hung parliament in our democratic discourse. So I was expecting a certain thing, but I was not expecting it to come in this particular form or around this particular time, even though I knew that there was going to be some changes.
Right, Prof. So talking about the form and manner in which this was done, the NDC MPs say they were not consulted. I mean, fair enough, these MPs represent constituents who voted for them. Admittedly, they did so on the ticket of a certain party. But the way this was done, doesn't it further entrench the idea that these MPs are there to serve their party's interest first before the constituents who gave them the nod?
I don't really understand. You want to...
I'm saying that you spoke about the form in which this was done. So their neck met, they made a decision, and they conveyed the message to Parliament.
Yes.
The MPs say they were not consulted. They were not aware of this new arrangement or decision, or they were not involved in the decision making. And I'm asking that this manner in which the party took its decision, doesn't it entrench that idea that the MPs are there to serve the party first instead of the constituents who voted for them?
Well,
so the party has a certain level of power over them, a certain level of power.
Yes, I to an extent agree with you, but my position has always been that the MPs are always there to serve constituents. But first of all, we should find out how has this been done over the years in determining who must lead the minority caucus or majority caucus. And so for this, in this particular instance, in determining who must lead the minority caucus, how has it been done over the years? I think they have done, what has happened has not departed from previous times or previous modes of selecting who must lead the minority caucus. It's not departed from that. And so I don't see the serious bula balu about it, except to say that we can always work to perfect systems. And so if people are calling for perfection and deepening of consultation, that's a conversation we can all have. But what I want to say is that over the years, they have not departed from the way and manner they select their caucus of their leaders. They haven't departed from that. So there are always levels of consultation. They consult the flag bearer of, I'm told President Mahama was consulted. I'm told the chairman of Council of State was consulted. Top brass and various serious constituencies within the party got consulted. But it appears, from the comments and from my own investigation, it appears that the members of parliament themselves, members of the minority caucus themselves, were not consulted. And
Prof, a quick interjection. You say they were not consulted. When we spoke to Asiedu Nketia yesterday, my colleague Blessed Suga, he actually said that they were, just not all of them. Now you're talking about 136 members of parliament. They are on recess. And he says some of them were consulted. In fact, he makes the point that letters were written to the leaders who were going to be replaced, a.k.a. Haruna Idrisu, Muntaka Mubarak, among others.
There's a difference between writing letters to inform people and actually going to them one-on-one, particularly those who are going to be affected, actually going to them to consult or to discuss the idea or proposal with them. What my investigation shows is that many of them, in fact, all of them that I've spoken to, I've not spoken to all of them, but the number of members of parliament that I've spoken to said that, they only heard it, but there was nothing like a serious consultation, on this particular matter. And I'm saying that this particular mode of selecting who must lead the party in parliament has not departed from what used to happen, what used to exist in previous times. But we can work as a political scientist. If you ask me, I'll tell you that we should not interpret the party's own constitution and rules in a manner that will make the minority caucus some group of zombies who would be sitting down there, and then tomorrow they will be told that this is your leader or these are your leaders, and then they must peacefully follow. If you do that, you will strain relations, and people who have been affected will always work to undermine the leadership of the new people who may have been selected. And so my position is that, one, they have not done anything that departs from the previous mode of selecting who must lead the minority caucus in parliament. They haven't done that. But I would have wished that, given the fact that we are in the middle of the term of this particular parliament, it would have been better if they had sat all of the minority caucus down, and in particular those who are to be reshuffled. It would have been better if they had sat down to consult extensively and to engage them extensively, rather than taking the decision and having some elders of the party inform them. Because whether you like it or not, these people, they also have following. I will tell you that I don't think that they would have about 80% or 90% of the minority caucus, following them. And if they are not happy, it means the minority caucus, they also will be happy. And
the point must also be made. In fact, I've heard members of the minority, Muntaka Mubarak, among others, who have spoken to the matter, say that they have nothing against Dr. Kasilato Forsen, and I mean, he can easily step into that position, but they just feel that certain processes must be followed. So, in terms of followership, it's not to say that the others who have been put forward don't have followers as well. They do.
No, the point is that if people are peeved and people are bitter and they want to be politically matured, they would make some of these comments publicly. But monitor the kinds of social media comments that these people who have been affected have put out there. It will tell you that sometimes what is said for the cameras are not what are actually practiced. And so I know they have healthy relations. I mean, the outgone minority leader and KCL. Right. I mean, you cannot say that the relationship between them is frosty. But the point is that if you don't keep in consultations in a manner that brings all on board, then you see the members of the minority caucus, they are not stupid. They are not zombies. They cannot just be there and then tomorrow they are told that these are your leaders, and then quickly everybody is following them. Then the next day they are told these are your leaders. So an outside party comes to select leaders for them, and then they are following. If you come to...
you say an outside... This is the party.
Yeah, this is the party, but the party is operating outside of parliament. Okay? Those who selected these leaders, are not on the floor of parliament. Let me give you an example. As an academic, when my vice chancellor wants to select who heads the department, the vice chancellor who has the right to appoint the head of department. But to ensure that everybody is carried on board, what the vice chancellor will do will be to defer to the consultations and the views of members of faculty within that department. So if the faculty will say, well, we think that this man can lead us, and even if the vice chancellor wants to appoint a different person, he would engage the faculty to ensure that whoever is appointed is not sabotaged. But if you don't do that, and then you say, because I've just given you this, well, you may have done it, but you see that because others may be bitter and others may not be happy, they will work to undermine. We know the kinds of work that people like Muntaka Mohammed did in bringing about the current Speaker of Parliament. Bringing about the current Speaker of Parliament. We know. And so if he speaks and he decides to say that, well, okay, we would adopt a wait-and-see approach, then it may not be good for the fortunes of the party. This is not to say that Social cannot do the work. I buy so much into the argument that the battle for the political soul of Ghana in the lead up to the 2024 elections will be fought on the soils of the economy. And so you need somebody who is articulate and who has a firm grasp over the economy to be able to lead and to represent the party's position on the economy and to let the development partners and the international community understand what the party stands for, as far as issues of the economy is concerned. And so I have every confidence in Attoforsen. He can do it and do it just as... Quick
one, very quick one. Couldn't he have done that from the backbench? Couldn't he have done that from, because already that is what happens. The majority leader, yes, espouses a certain leadership role. But in the end, when it comes to matters of the economy, whom do you often see talking about it?
Well,
it's Dr. Cassiel Attoforsen.
Yeah, the point is that if you're a leader, your leverage and your influence is different from if you are not a leader. And so if that is what the party wants, they want somebody who will be out there speaking their position on the economy, giving the likely dominant factor in the lead-up to the 2024 election. They said it should be Attoforsen. I think we must respect that. But my concern is that going forward, if you read their own party's constitution, they tell you that the party outside parliament or the party leadership would do this selection in consultation with the minority caucus.
Right, Prof.
Constitution says. So consultation is not about just informing. It's about sitting down with people and discussing some of these things with them. They may even hold contrary views to whatever you want to do. The fact that you are consulted does not mean your views must always be swallowed hook, line, and sinker. But that active and respect of saying that, well, we consulted you must always be there, so that when you select the leaders, the leader selected will not be seen as an imposition, and people will be willing to work with that leader rather than working to sabotage that leader to be able to prove a certain point.
Prof, just a second. Let me just say that we've also been joined by Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, Member of Parliament, South Dai. A very good morning to you, Roxanne.
Yeah, good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners. Are we on TV or radio?
We're on TV. Just hold for me, Roxanne. Okay. I'll come to you. So I know you will follow with salutations and the rest, but just hold for me as we wrap with Prof. So, Prof, just very quickly address this for me. Before I get to the questions, though, I want you to look at the profile of Attoforsen. We all know he's the Member of Parliament for Ejumako Enyane Siem. His highest qualification is a philosopher's degree attained in 2020. He is a finance expert, certificates in taxation, economics, as well as accounting, former Deputy Minister of Finance 2013 to 2017, current ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, and he obtained his Master of Science in Taxation from the University of Oxford and his PhD from the KNUST. So, very quickly on this, if you can do it in a minute, I'd be very grateful. Did the powers that be in the NDC in any way? I've heard from Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, and he says, apart from procedural reasons, he feels it was apt. So did they err in any way? Two, are there more pros compared to cons in what has been done, or more cons compared to the pros? And finally, does looking at the profile I just read, does Attoforsen fit the bill as minority leader? Very quickly, as quickly as you can, Prof.
There was a need for a certain reshuffle of the minority leadership. And quickly, I'll tell you that Attoforsen actually fits the bill. And I agree with Kwame Asah-Asante. The only snag is that they would have given consultation to include the minority caucus, and in particular, those who have been affected by the reshuffle. Apart from that, Attoforsen is an excellent replacement of Yusuf Haruna, particularly considering the fact that, as I indicated earlier, on the battle for the political soul of Ghana in the lead-up to 2024 elections will be fought on the grounds of the economy.
And so there are more pros in this situation than cons?
He actually fits the position that has been now entrusted to his care, except that consultations would have been deepened.
Professor Jampo, we're grateful that you joined us for this conversation. Professor Jampo is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. Bernice, we also have Member of Parliament for South Dai joining the conversation.
Yes, and good morning to you once again, Mr. Dafiamepo. It's the morning after the news. Are you one of those who are still shocked about this, or you finally managed to process all that's happened?
Finally managed to process. I've been in touch with my leader, that's the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. He is urging calm on all the members of the 137 caucus in Parliament. There's one thing I learned from him within the past 7 years, 7 under him. He will tell you that in all situations, you must stand by the party's decision and defend it, whether good or bad. And so it's a philosophy that he imbibed in all of us, those of us who served under him in the 7th Parliament and served under him in the 8th Parliament until about midday yesterday. What is critical is that nobody doubts the competencies of the 3 new faces at the front bench. Indeed, the majority in effective change after the 2020 general election, they maintained their arrowhead, which was the Honorable Chairman Sabunsu, and changed the Deputy Majority Leader, changed the Majority Whip, changed the first Deputy Majority Whip and the second Deputy Majority Whip. And so they introduced 4 new faces in addition to the arrowhead. I have no problem in respect of the changes that have been effected. My only difficulty is the fact that our arrowhead has also been affected. I was hoping that if there would be any change within our front, at least our arrowhead would have been spared, because he delivered such a sterling leadership within the past 7 years as an opposition leader in Parliament. He's debated 7 budgets of this government. And in all the 7 budgets that the government has submitted so far to this country, he was able to speak to the economic issues and punch holes with the support of the new leader who, until yesterday, was the ranking member on finance. So nobody doubts the competencies of the new minority leader. But we were hoping that the Honorable Haruna Idrisu could have been maintained. That is my humble view. Hold on, for 2 reasons. One, for the sake that we could maintain cohesion, and because he is the arrowhead. And then 2, for the sake of religious balance. You see, we are a political party. For all that we do, you need some semblance of some religious balancing. As we speak, if we take our front bench, we don't have any Muslim. Doyo is a Christian. The Honorable Ahmed MP for Banda, that is the first Deputy Whip, is a Christian. The Honorable Kwame Abuja, my dear brother, is a Christian. The Honorable Ahmad Kofi is a Christian. Then the Honorable Dr. Atufosi, the new minority leader, is a Christian. That is what bothers me as a member of the minority caucus.
Roxanne, pardon my interjection here. Yes. I hear what you're saying, but yes. How does religion come into this? How does it become? Because there have been points where we've had many Muslims on board. This is Benjamin, not Evans. This is Benjamin.
You have asked me, how does religion come in here? That is why I said religious balance. It's important that as a political party, when we make such decisions, we avert our mind to religious sensibility. The NDC has such a huge following within the Muslim community. And I say these things as a submission of my humble opinion. I am not saying it to impugn the decision of Adabraka in this matter. because Haruna has taught me and others that at all times stand by the decision of the party and defend it. I am defending the decision of the party. I am only saying that I wish that he could have been maintained. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
On two grounds, on grounds that he delivered competency, and on grounds that coming from the religion, the Muslim religion, the Muslim group within Ghana, he could have been maintained. I don't see that semblance. That's all the point I'm making. And let nobody read me wrongly. Because for all intents and purposes, religion is very key. When as a political party we are taking strategic decisions, religion factors in keenly.
Right. Mr. Dafiamepo, you say that you were expecting that if there was any change going to be made, Mr. Idrisu would have been maintained. Is that to suggest that you had a hint, you knew about this before the communication came in yesterday?
Of course, if you are abreast with current affairs, I returned from my constituency on the 15th of January after visiting my communities and my party executives to the news that there was some idea of some leadership shake-up within Parliament. And the names that were mooted in that news is what has been authenticated yesterday. So I thought that...
I mean from the point of party communication to you as an MP. That's what I mean. Was it communicated to you? Did you know officially?
I will tell you that even the previous ones, I was only called into a meeting and informed that the party has agreed on the Honorable Haruna Idrisu and 4 others as our leaders, and we were to accept it and defend it and expect that they will lead us, and they did. They did an excellent job. So I won't fault the procedure keenly because the Constitution is very clear as to who appoints our leadership in Parliament. I am only saying that in doing so, we could have considered the religious factor perspective.
So some of your colleagues are not too happy in the way this was done. They say they were not consulted. Do you think that the manner in which this has been done will make it more difficult for Kasela to force him to do his work? And as it looks like now, the party or the members of Parliament on your side appear to be quite divided on the matter.
To the extent that the person that we are angry that he's been removed, that is the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, he himself is urging camp. To the extent that he says that at all times, let's stand by the party's decision and defend it. If he is urging his lieutenants and backbenchers come so that we can support the new leadership, we can only listen to him and support the new leadership so we can deliver. I want to believe that he will be given some poignant role within the caucus to play going forward.
Are you able, sorry Benjamin, but you say you spoke to him. Are you able to tell us if he was called into a meeting, if he was properly informed before this letter reached the table of the Speaker?
I cannot confirm or deny that, but I know that being the leader of the caucus, he had a hint. They discussed the matter at the highest level. But to the extent that the factors that led to the actual removal, whether he's in agreement with the issues or not, I cannot speak to that. But he knew that this decision was being taken, and there was efforts to let those who are taking the decision to take a real look at the arrangement that they were seeking to introduce.
Very quickly, to wrap with you and move on to Kofi Adams, who has also joined the conversation. Mr. Adams, a very good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Adams. All right. Just to wrap with you, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, you mentioned that the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, could play some other crucial role. What other role could he likely play? And do you agree, when you look at Kasilato Forson, when you look at Honorable Bua, among others who have been brought in to shore up the party's parliamentary positions on the economy, energy and industry, are they apt in that regard? So 2 quick questions, and we can take it from there. Roxanne.
Yes, I see that there's no lawyer in the front room. There's no lawyer as well in the front room. A lawyer is completely missing. And he being a lawyer under whom I have trained in terms of parliamentary democracy and parliamentary jurisprudence, I think that he will be given some role in terms of leading the lawyers in parliament and dealing with some of the legal issues that may, or constitutional issues that may come up. He naturally is going to fall into the category of lawyer Cletus Abuka, also a former leader of the caucus. I think we can team up well and work well to deliver victory 2024-2025.
Roxanne, we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning for this conversation. Thank you, sir. He is Member of Parliament for South Dai. We're also joined by Dr. Draman, who is with Dr. Rashid Draman, who is Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you, sir, for joining the conversation.
Good morning.
What are the optics for you? What are your takeaways right from when you heard this? Did you hear the storm brewing? And now that it has come to play before all of us, what are your quick takeaways from what happened?
I didn't see this coming. So when I heard the news, I think it was actually one of your colleagues from Joy that called me and said there's breaking news and they would like to have a conversation. My immediate reaction was I began asking myself the question, did the party consult the caucus? Is there something wrong about the leadership of these people who have been totally removed? So that was my first question. And the second takeaway for me was I was really surprised at the complete sweep of the front bench. I have seen over the years, following this parliament for more than 20 years, I've seen changes happen in the leadership of the various caucuses. But in most instances, one or two people will be moved here and there. But I've never seen a complete shake-up like this one, particularly midstream. And I think that is what is important here, midstream. We are getting ready for election 2024, and NDC is projecting itself as a government in waiting, an alternative government that Ghanaians should trust and give power to. So for me, everything that is done at the party level and so on, we have to be given indications that these are transparent, these are participatory, and so on and so forth. So that at least at the end of the day, if you have a leadership that is given to a people, the people who are supposed to be led would willingly allow themselves to be led. I hear the honorable member talk about the fact that in the past, they've just been called into a meeting and informed that this is your new leadership, and then work with them and make sure that you defend the party position and so on. The question I would have loved you to ask him was, in this case, was that done? Were they all called together to be informed, particularly because of the character of this current parliament? When no party can afford to lose even one single vote.
Yeah, Dr. Draman, we know that many of them have expressed shock. At the time the news broke, our parliamentary correspondent was with some NDC MPs who said they were not aware of what happened. We've heard from Murtala Mohammed, who actually says the timing of this is totally wrong. And so we know for a fact that not all of them were consulted. And that's why the question was to him specifically, if he knew if this was coming up.
Yes, indeed. I think that, I guess at the end of the day, for me, I've said this over and over, when a party is a government in waiting, the yardstick for measuring that party is its performance in parliament. We Ghanaians don't care about what happens at party headquarters. Because we didn't elect those who sit at party headquarters. Their party elected them. But those who are sitting in the 275-member chamber are those that were elected by Ghanaians. And that is how we measure the performance of either a government in power or a government in waiting. So I think that if indeed there were no consultations, you want to make sure that now that the decision has been made, the fallout is managed to the extent that the NDC can project an image of party that can be trusted, that can be given power come 2024 if Ghanaians so wish.
You've been monitoring Parliament for a very long time. Is this the first time you've seen something of this sort?
Yes, in fact, as I have said, I've been monitoring this Parliament longer than most of the members who are sitting in that house. Since the second Parliament, I've had engagements with this Parliament, different programs, different projects. At a time when even people like the current Speaker and so on were in leadership, in minority, and so on. So I have seen changes happen every now and then. That's a constant. You will see maybe the leader moved or the deputy leader and so on, but I haven't seen a complete sweep like this. Maybe it has happened, but I can't remember because 20 years is quite a long time.
When you say complete sweep, though, is it a complete sweep? It's not all of them who've been moved.
Well, there are only 2 that have been left, isn't it?
So it doesn't make it a complete sweep.
Well, that's almost like a complete sweep, if you like, particularly the leader, the deputy leader, the whip. These are the 3 critical positions, that's why we say, for instance, whenever there's going to be change in an organization, you don't go and change the entire leadership of the organization. Then you are likely to have challenges with transition and so on and so forth. So, for instance, in my organization, if I'm going to move people, I will not go and move all the 3 top people at the same time. Then you are not careful, some memory will be lost.
Right.
If people are not happy, they might not cooperate with the new group that's coming and so on and so forth. And we are talking, Benjamin, we are talking about democracy here. Even if these practices have been so in the past, I think our democracy is evolving. We are talking about participation. Today, Ghanaians are crying because people are saying the government is deciding, making decisions about our money without consulting us. This is no different from what we are seeing play out within the NDC.
Are you suggesting that the NDC in adopting this position has been a bit autocratic or maybe full throttle autocratic? And I'd like to draw your attention to this fact. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, the member of parliament for South Dai, who is himself a minority MP, says he may have his issues, but he says this is actually nothing new. It's when Haruna was being brought in, this is how he was brought in. The party determines and says these are our people, and maybe, yes, there may be some level of discussion on them, but this is how it's always been. Is the only novelty not the fact that it's happening midstream? What else is different?
Well, the other thing that is different, Honorable Nelson Dafiamekpo said they were brought into a meeting and told that this is your leaders. I don't know whether you question him about that. And for me, even if this is how things have been done in the past, you know, it doesn't make it right, because we are saying that our parties must be democratic, isn't it? We are saying that, you know, processes within political parties must be such that when we have people coming from these parties into parliament, they would also be democratic, and they will practice the processes of consulting us and the processes of making sure that the views of the citizens are taken into account, even if not every view can be taken into account. So I think that that's the angle. And I'm not saying, I'm not raising the red flag about consultation. You spoke to Honorable Muntala. I mean, he's a member of the caucus. Yesterday I was on one of your programs, and Evans mentioned that another member of the caucus, a senior member, Honorable Cletus Aboka, who in fact was a majority leader at one point for that party, also raised some concerns. So, I mean, if we are drawing from this, even if there was consultation, perhaps maybe not all of them were consulted.
Very selective.
So maybe my final bit to you before we proceed, I'd just like to find out, crucially, the chairman of the party, Esiedun Ketia, says opinions are like panties and everyone can have them. And he goes on to state why the party has come up with this major shakeup. Quoting him, he says, "We know, for instance, that going into election 2024, the economy is going to be the major battleground, and so many of the debates will focus on the economy. So you better put your best man in economics forward." That is what we have done. We also looked at energy. You know, the petroleum and electricity challenges. So we needed to settle on Kofi Amabua, our former minister, to be the deputy minority leader. Finally, he says, the other area is infrastructure. Kwame Agboja, being our man in infrastructure, should play a key role. That generally is what informed the changes. Do you agree with him?
Well, I mean, it's not a question of whether agreeing or disagreeing with him, but for me, I have questions about this. For instance, if you recall, every press conference that the NDC had on the economy, I thought that I've always seen Dr. Atuforsen given the platform, given all the visibility to play the role that he ought to play as a spokesperson on finance. So I don't know whether there was something that was lacking. And when it came to energy, the same thing. When it came to other issues, they have people who speak on interior and security matters and so on and so forth. I mean, the leader does not necessarily have to have, knowledge of economics. I mean, he just has to surround himself with spokespersons that can deal with the issue. So on that score, I honestly don't know where that justification is coming from. I mean, except maybe to say that if there were instances when these people were not given the platform to speak as the experts on those issues, then maybe the chairman has
Doc, quickly, so you say you don't see where that justification comes from. Doesn't mean what the chairman of the party has said does not really wash with you. It doesn't really make sense as from where you sit.
No, I mean, from where I sit, what I'm saying is that I think Honorable Atuforsen, the current leader, has always been the person who has spoken on finance. And he has always been given the platform, at least based on what we see on your screens. If it's something else, then maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the indication a lot of people are getting. I'd ask you to hold on for me, Dr. Draman. We've been joined by Kofi Adams. He's an MP for Buem. He belongs to the NDC. At a point, he was an executive of the party. Good morning to you, and great to have you on the show. We'd just like you to help us understand how these things work. As a former executive of the party, did it ever happen that you had to deliberate on changing the leadership of Parliament midstream? And how did this news come to you?
Well, good morning and thank you for the opportunity. I believe I'm speaking to Bernice.
Hello, Mr. Adams.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
I believe this is Bernice.
Yes, this is Bernice.
Well, as a party, we have not had the opportunity of changing a minority leader before. We were in government from 1993 to January 2001. And when we went into opposition from January 2001, we had a minority leader who went through the 2 terms we were in opposition after January 2009, and that is current Speaker Bagge. And then became our majority leader for a short while until he was appointed a minister and we had a replacement. So, as a party, we have not had the experience of changing a minority leader. However, we have changed majority leaders before. And because these were majority leaders we were taking, what it means is that we were then in government. So it was possible to shift that leader to other areas. So it would not generate the kind of discussion that it's generating. But the party has not done anything wrong. Indeed, the closest you will get to in terms of identifying leadership of parliament in our provisions, either you pick the national constitution, is silent. If you pick our standing orders, if you pick our standing orders and you go to the preliminary page, I think about standing order provision 7, that is what deals the interpretation, is what deals with what a majority and a minority leader is. And it's very clear that the person designated by the party or party before the act and or members of parliament. So our own standing orders, which parliament itself developed, interpret a majority leader or a minority leader as someone designated by the party or party. Because sometimes parties can go into an alliance before going into an election. So our own standing orders that guides our way recognize that the designation of that position is by the party or party.
Interesting. So, how did you get to know about this latest change by your party? And were you as shocked as some of your colleagues were?
Well, like all other changes, you would expect the shock factor. If you will have to wait for a change to reach a point where everybody says it must be changed, then it means that you are having a problem. Leadership must not speak until everybody sees that change must happen before you change. Leadership must see the need for a change when many have not seen it, or other reasons should inform them to make that change. That's what leadership is all about. If leadership will wait to effect change only when everybody has seen it, then you don't have leadership.
So I get that you don't have a problem. You don't have a problem with the timing, with the
an aspect of shock in decisions of leadership is allowed. I am not in a position to be consulted because I am not part of maybe parliamentary leadership or even party functional leadership or a key component. But I am, however, aware that that consultation went on.
Fair enough. Like you mentioned, the party's leadership has the right to change. Its leaders or leader in parliament at its own discretion. But we've heard from the chairman of your party, who's given some reasons. He says this is to help the party organize for election 2024 and goes to give further explanations. He talks about how the economy will be key ahead of the elections, and so they needed Dr. K.C. Alatoforsen to be leader of the minority. But a lot have raised questions. Take, for example, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who was very instrumental and has been credited a lot for the party's success in the 2016 elections, especially on his role in raising and dealing dealing with the issues of the economy, does it have to take Dr. Kasiel Ato-Forson to be minority leader for him to be effective, or even any of the other leaders who have been cited for different sectors like infrastructure and power? Do they need to be there as leaders to effectively support the party's bid to win the 2024 elections?
Well, like you said, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia did it. He did it as a running mate. So if we have opportunity of further supporting it to the minority leader, what is wrong with that? So the chairman of the party has given you some reasons. And I was not even expecting the leadership to be providing reasons out there for the changes that they did. I believe that telling the people that, look, we did the changes for tactical reasons is enough. Don't even provide the details. That's why I'm a bit also surprised and said that colleagues and members will be introducing many other factors. I heard my colleague talk about religious balance. I don't think that is fair comments to be making at this moment. Look, it took leaders like late President Rawlings to introduce a lot of reforms, religious reforms that provided opportunity for the Islamic community in Ghana. He wasn't a Muslim. His running mate or vice president was not a Muslim. It took persons like late President Mills and Vice President Mahama and President Mahama and his team to introduce means of movement for pilgrims that made pilgrimage a bit more comfortable. They were not Muslims. So it should not take a Muslim sitting in the front line to make sure that issues of religious balance is prosecuted either in parliament or in society in general.
So you have a problem with the issue of religion, and he cited religious balance. Does that also mean you have a problem when your chairman says that they needed, one of the reasons that informed this reshuffle is that they need regional balance? Or
well, regional balance is not religious balance. Regional balance is actually stated in our constitution. Our national constitution we all voted for is minded to talk about regional balance.
But what's the difference? What's the difference here?
Mr. Adams, when Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia introduced the issue of religious themes into our national body policy, that there will be swearing in by the Quran and the Bible, many of us thought that that was wrong.
But I'm just wondering. I mean, because they appear to be similar principles, because if you say that you want religious balance and so you want a representation of the two major religions, is it not the same as saying we want regional balance? We want everybody to feel represented?
Regional balance is not the same as...
How are they not the same?
Because we do not have just one or two religions. We do not have just one or two religions.
Yeah, but for the leadership now, they don't have all the 16 regions represented there. So clearly,
when we say a regional balance, it doesn't mean every single 16 regions will have to have a space in there.
So you're saying the same thing. So when we say religious balance, it doesn't mean that all the religions in Ghana will need to have representation.
Well, religion is not the same as religion. That's all that I'm trying to tell you.
Are you saying
religion is not, the traditionalists will not tell their practices are not the same as Christian.
So point made.
Practices are not the same as Muslim. So in terms of regional balancing, you can have a fair representation zonally at certain. How are you going to say that a Christian will represent the interests of traditionalism? How are you going to say a Muslim will represent the interests of traditionalists and Christians? How are you going to say that?
But you just said that. You just cited examples where there were people who didn't belong to a certain religion but helped.
That is why I'm saying you don't have to introduce that at all.
Right, fair enough.
By extension, then, are you saying you agree with the party that the party on all levels, you have a former presidential candidate who has run time and again and is likely to run this time, of northern extraction, head of your neck of northern extraction, head or your leader in parliament of northern extraction? Do you feel then that it was apt, based on what you're saying, for this shake-up to happen, for that regional balance? Now we see the central region in there, the Volta region is still in there, the western region is in there. Is that shake-up, at least per that direction, is it apt?
That is why I said that what is available to party leaders is not available to us individual members of Parliament, even when we put ourselves as a collective. Because the leadership deals with Parliament, it deals with many other organs and structures. They look at the general strategy for the party. The strategy is towards the 2024. And so certain changes will be done. I believe, yes, consultation should be underlined, that persons must be consulted. The outgoing must be given the necessary respect and recognition. That must be registered very clearly. But then, when the leadership has taken the decision, our is to have a way of working with it.
So just to follow up from there, a quick question on this shuffle. Your colleague MP Murtala Mohammed says the timing is wrong. There's an analyst in the Daily Dispatch newspaper this morning who says this could be some form of political suicide. You could be shooting yourselves in the foot. A deputy communications director of the MPP, Owusu Bempa, says, look, how can you even think of this? Let me quote him here. Can Atoforsen match up to Oseichi Mensah-Bonsu in terms of parliamentary debate and knowledge? Kofi Amabua defeating or debating Afenyo Makin? That is a political obituary. It is a political suicide for the NDC. What do you think?
You see, anyone who analyzes one-to-one is making a mistake. A team has been selected that is to lead a caucus together with the party to make sure that we prosecute an agenda that will lead to ultimate victory come 2024. Nothing more, nothing less. Anyone who decides to go and match Atoforsen against Chairman Sabu or Boa against my friend Afenyo Makin or Honorable Kwame Akpoja against my very good friend from Sawam at Wejiri will be making a big mistake. Ours is not a case of one-to-one match. Ours is a case of putting a team that will help prosecute an agenda towards 2024. And I believe that leadership was formed strongly by that in making the decisions that they took. And we will complete this process when we finally elect flag bearer, elect parliamentary candidates, and follow that up with the appointment of other positions to fill the various party sectors that are available. That will surely be done. And I think that what the party needs now, what the rank and file should do, having given indication and talk about consultation, is to rally around the decision and let's carry on.
Mr. Adams, would ask you to hold on briefly as we wrap up with Dr. Rashid Draman. Doc, so as Mr. Adams just said, in that statement released by the party, we are told that the new leadership will be charged to recommend consequential changes to the ranking membership to headquarters for the party's approval. So definitely there's going to be a ripple effect on different committees within Parliament. But for you, what should the party do going forward to ensure that what we are seeing play out in the media space with regards to disagreements, concerns being raised, do not deepen and affect the party in the long run?
Must do is to manage the fallout from this very, very carefully. I think, I'm hearing from the members, each of them trying to defend the decision of the party. Yes, if this is how things have been done in the past, I think for me, as a group that promotes participation and transparency and so on, I believe consultation is key. If they have to rally their forces, if they have to show an image of unity, if they have to show an image of government in waiting that we can trust and give power to. How they do it going forward, I think that's a task for the leadership of the party, because you want to make sure that you have people who lead, people who are willing to be led.
Right. We appreciate your time here this morning. Dr. Rashid Draman is Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and he's been sharing his thoughts with us. Back to you, Mr. Adams. So there are those who have suggested that there's more to this than meets the eye. There's more to this than the reasons the party leadership has given. Some have cited, for example, the leadership, there's a former leadership led by Haruna Idrisu saying, oh, we're not going to approve the finance minister, and then there's reversal of that decision eventually. Is there more to this than meets the eye? Is it more about function? Is it more about the party's disappointment and how Haruna Idrisu has led it?
What's the chief whip's job? Of course, if you understand the leader's position, you can understand that there's a need for a deputy. But the whip and the...
Hello? Hello, Mr. Adams? Have we lost Kofi Adams? It appears so. Well, while we try to rectify that line, it's interesting, but on the score of whether or not this is simply about election 2024 and regional organization of the party is an angle that has been explored, but we just wanted to take Kofi Adams' take on that.
Yeah.
There are those who have suggested that the party is disappointed in Haruna Idrisu's leadership, and some have raised concerns. For example, Muntaka Mubarak was quite vocal about his views about Speaker.
There are times when the leadership of Haruna has been questioned, but there's no leader, whether majority or minority, who will not face that at some point in time. Muntaka himself has been contested, and there have been shakeups. By and large, you would see also from the support that he's getting, not just from the Northern Caucus of the minority in Parliament, but other angles, that he's also acquitted himself creditably. And all of our guests this morning have said that. So I guess we'll wait to see how this pans out moving forward for the party.
Right, I'm told we have Mr. Adams back on the line. Hello, Kofi Adams, if you can hear me. Great. Is this not more about Haruna Idrisu's leadership style? We've had guests who earlier came on the show raising concerns about, especially, you know, in Parliament, when he came out to say, look, we were not going to endorse the finance minister later. There's a reversal of that decision, and there appears to be similar examples. Muntaka Mubarak, for example, has been questioned for speaking up against Speaker Gbagbin, saying that he was running Parliament like a palace. And so there are those who think that, no, you're just giving us reasons, but there's more to this than meets the eye.
Not at all, Benny. The truth is that Honorable Haruna Idrisu has given one of the best leadership to the caucus. Indeed, he has taken us through very trying and difficult times. And most of the decisions that the caucus have taken, at least for the period that have been there, have been through detailed consultation processes. Yes, some on-the-spot decisions, strategic decisions may be taken that will not allow for some deep consultation. That we have been. But he has offered the best of leadership in this very trying time. And the reason for the change is not because of non-performance or any thing that he's done completely wrong. But it is just part of the strategy, as I've said earlier, towards the 2024 elections.
We have
nothing more, nothing less. And the chairman of the party, the general secretary, have stated so clearly.
It will be great to hear from Haruna Idrisu himself, because we're yet to hear from him. In fact, the day before...
It is also never to do with who supported who. Indeed, among the three introduced leaders are some who didn't support the candidature of either the chairman or even the general secretary that we have now. So it is clearly not about who supported who. It is clearly, let's take all those things out.
All right.
People with their fertile minds may want to introduce such things, but it is clearly never about that.
Would you say that Haruna Idrisu has been treated fairly? You just mentioned he's done a lot of work. In the manner in which this was done and the way the communication came, would you say it's a fair treatment?
Well, considering the experience of the past, where we had a minority leader having a full 8-year serve, that's 2 terms. Some will say that maybe we could have allowed Honorable Haruna to complete this 8th parliament that he started with. But like I said, leadership is informed, decision is informed by strategy, not just necessarily feeling. A very good striker scoring goal can be substituted by a coach for a defender because you want to protect what you already have.
But that's not the case here, is it?
Maybe substituted for a striker because you are seeking more goals. The fact that you do substitution doesn't mean the person you are replacing is a very bad person. No.
It's interesting, these dynamics. When you look at the Chronicle newspaper today, there are some interesting comments there. They say, just on the back of what Bernice posed to you as a question, NDC use Haruna Muntaka and dump them. And then we have a reaction from Haruna, who has said he's always available to, serve the party. Never let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be. I will forever serve my country. Never let a wishbone grow where a backbone should be. When you listen to the rhetoric of the former minority leader, what does it smack of?
No, but clearly what it means is that he understands as a minority leader, you serve on the wishes of the people, not a backbone. And so
I beg to interject. A wishbone is more, it's less functional compared to a backbone. And what I deduce from it is
when you are given an opportunity to serve, don't make it as a permanent place.
I see. That's your reading of what he said.
He understands that leadership is transient. You will not be there forever. You will not. So don't make it like I have come and I'm going to be there all through. So he has his own under. Look, Honorable Haruna is somebody who always gives it to the party. He may be unhappy, possibly about consultation, but he would always say, "Let the party prevail."
It's surprising, but particularly interesting. Those are the words of Arnaud Dompré, Majority Chief Whip in Parliament for the NPP, and that has been his reaction to it. We've heard from Alhassan Tampuli, former NPA boss, also a member of Parliament, encouraging the former minority leader and all of that. How do you think this will play out in real terms in Parliament? And again, I'll pose that question I posed to Roxanne, I believe. What now happens to Haruna Idrisu? Let's forget about the others. What happens to Haruna Idrisu? How is he going to be played by the minority as some sort of prominent figure in Parliament? What happens?
Well, thank you. One thing about Parliament is that I will not say that another or Honorable Tampuli's position is because they are on the other side. When we are in Parliament, there's some level of solidarity. So I would say that there's some mischief in what they want to say. I see it as true solidarity to a comrade and then a colleague. But Honorable Haruna Idrisu has taken this in good stride. What happens to him? We recognize him as a leader. Once a leader, always a leader. And that is why even today in Parliament, for many of us who did not have Honorable Christopher lead us as majority leader, we still call him leader. For many of us who were not in Parliament, when Honorable Rashid Telfo was our leader, we still call him leader. So the fact that you are not taking the front seat doesn't mean that you have lost that leader in you that we saw. So he's still our leader. But everybody first is a member of Parliament. But of course,
did you just say, you said something very interesting, Mr. Adams. Did you just say he is still our leader?
Yes, we see him as a leader. He's led us. He will continue. He has an enormous experience. That is why, for example, sometimes you hear Mr. Speaker say, I am taking only 2 views from either side. Then you will see someone like Honorable Christopher on his seat. And Mr. Speaker will say, no, I cannot let this experienced person on his feet just ask him to sit down, so I'll take his view. So even Mr. Speaker prefer to side person. So tomorrow, even if Honorable Haruna Idrisu will have to take a seat behind the front bench. When he's on his feet on a matter, the speaker will recognize that. All other persons will recognize that. So it doesn't take what he has done over the years. From 2017 till now, the fact that he's no more a leader, it doesn't take that away from him.
Right, and we've seen that with Cletus Avoka and others after leading.
Exactly.
They've gone to the backbenches, continuing to serve in Parliament. But let me find out. At the bottom of all of this, there has been some simmering conversation in terms of an anti-Mahama group and the former president flexing his muscles and how it has degenerated into this, and others say, no, it's the other way round. What exactly is the situation? Is this merely the party rejigging its machinery, or is there more to this than we're seeing?
So it's clearly the party enriching the machinery towards 2024 based on its understanding, at least at this moment. It has nothing to do with pro or anti-Mahama. And our leader has been one person who constantly has pronounced His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as presumptive leader. In our recent National Congress, when he spoke, his position was very clear. In all our meetings, he has not missed when it comes to his support for the candidate.
And that has been problematic, hasn't it?
Of course. So Honorable Haruna is never an anti-Mahama person. Unless somebody could prove me wrong on any other issue, then I don't see it that way. And this decision has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the party's considered strategy towards strengthening an area that is perceived necessary as we march towards 2024 elections.
So, listening to General Siedun Ketia, of course, we call him General, but General Mosquito, he says, in terms of why, what it tells you is that the only constant thing is change. Since the environment is changing, leadership must change along with the new environment. What does that mean in the context of the NDC in Parliament now? What further changes, I mean, if any, have been communicated to you? Apart from the party's leadership, we have the committee ranking members and all of that. And we know, for example, that PAC may also change. Kluchaveji, who is no longer at post. How is it going to work out?
PAC will not necessarily change.
Okay.
It is not a deputy minority leader that chairs public accounts.
I know that, but I'm just wondering what approach the party will use
So there will be a number of changes at the committee level, by all means. The current minority leader was a ranking for finance. Automatically, he's not going to rank finance committee again. So surely, there will be some changes there. If you remain a member of the committee, he will not rank it. So changes will be happening there. The deputy minority leader was also ranking some committees. I am sure he may not continue to rank that committee. There are other committees that will especially see change because there is indication in the letter that this new leadership will now sit to look at the recomposition of committee leadership and submit them to the party for consideration. So it means that the party itself recognizes that they have a limit that they can go. They determine the front leadership through consultation, and that front leadership will work to deal with the other leadership and submit them to party for them to agree at this final implementation. So we should expect some more changes in the leadership of not the front, because that has already happened,
right?
But the committee.
So we should expect some more changes at the committee level on the back of these. My final bit to you, Mr. Adams, with this change, is the NDC in a better position or pole position to capture power in 2024?
Well, it's preparing us better for 2024. You see, when you cut a tree, that is providing some shade. In the short term, there may be more sun over the people. But the long run is that tree you have cut will sprout more and develop more branches and expand its coverage. So very soon, by the time we hit a decision time for people to decide about which party they prefer to lead this country from 2025, the decisions that have been made today would have reached fruition and we will see the impact. But at least in this short term, you should expect the reactions that you are seeing. You should expect some people not to be happy. And this will include members of parliament, this will include supporters and followers and sympathizers of some who have been changed and so on and so forth. All that will happen. But ultimately, it will be looking good for the party if we agree to work together as a team, and which is what I believe is going to happen.
Mr. Adams, we're grateful for your time. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Kofi Adams is Member of Parliament for Buem. We also joined initially by Professor Ransford Jampo. We started the conversation with him, political scientist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive Director, Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, Member of Parliament for South Dying.
Good morning once again. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. You know, as we say it, everything we discuss here is what matters to you. And this morning, I'll be having a conversation with the CEO of Brighter Purpose Group. And she has some good news for you, something that will help you out. And this morning, she joins me in studio. And so the BPG, that's the Brighter Purpose Group, a couple of years ago, took on the project of leading the manufacturers of the Splendor brand of sweeteners into the sub-Saharan African region, starting with Ghana. So this morning she's here to tell us more about that. Good morning to you, Mabna. Great to have you.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Great. So tell us about what your company is all about.
Okay, so Brighter Purpose. First of all, I'd like to say a good morning to your listeners, your viewers, and a Happy New Year to them all. And so I want to talk about Brighter Purpose. We're a consulting firm in Tema. What we do is we do business consulting and management consulting as well. So we take on clients, either foreign clients trying to enter the African market, or we actually also help businesses that are here seeking funding from overseas.
Interesting. So you have some products here, Splendor Natural and Splendor Stevia. What are they?
So these are sweetness, sugar alternatives.
Okay.
So what they do is that you would use them just like you would sugar, but they do not have the negative effects that sugar ordinarily would bring. A lot of research has shown lately that the excess consumption of sugar is bringing about a lot of adverse health effects. One of the top things on that list is diabetes. Diabetes alone comes with a whole lot of complications such as heart disease, stroke, kidney failure. You can lose your vision, and you can have infections on your feet that will lead to getting your legs amputated and that type of thing. So Splendor here is actually very sweeter than sugar, but it's completely 0 calorie. So there's no calories because it's the excess consumption of the calories that can raise your blood sugar, especially if you're diabetic. But this is 0 calories and therefore will not increase your blood sugar. So it's perfect for anybody that wishes to watch their
What's the difference between the
so the yellow one that you see here, this is the original. It's actually been around for over 30 years. That's the Splendor Sucralose. It's actually made from sugar, but then it's made such that it doesn't increase your blood glucose level, so it's not sugar at all. But this is actually, the Splendor Stevia is extracted from the stevia plant.
Okay.
Yes, and so it's 100% natural.
So would you say, based on the reasons or explanation you just gave, that if someone is diabetic, the natural will best suits them, but if you're somebody who doesn't have issues with diabetes, you can have the Splendor, what did you call it? Splendor Sucralose.
Sucralose, yes. Yeah. Actually, both are, they do the same thing. So whether you're diabetic or not, you can use either one. The Splendor Stevia is actually quite new. It's only been around for about 5 years. And so that's just, to give another alternative. But both are perfect for diabetics and non-diabetics alike.
So the BPG is running with a theme this year, Health is Your Wealth. Tell us what the the agenda is, what the plan for the year is.
Okay. So one of the main things that we have a foundation, Brighter Purpose Foundation, and one of the key things that we've taken on is diabetes awareness creation, and that just championing initiatives for diabetes awareness. And so this year we've taken on the theme Health is Wealth, because a lot of times people think, I'm a financial analyst by profession, so when people think about wealth, they are always thinking about inflows, but it's not only inflow, you need to think about outflows as well. So for instance, if you have all the money in the world, but your health is failing you, of course, you'll not be able to enjoy any of that. And so health is wealth. It's just exactly as it sounds. Health is wealth. And so what we're trying to encourage people is to take better care of themselves, because you're worth it. You can't do the things that you love to do if you're not healthy. And one of the key things that one can do to take care of themselves is by, reducing their calorie intake and by switching to Splenda and Splenda Stevia, because these are natural products that will help you, meet those goals by taking better care of yourself. Yes.
So how do we get access to these products?
So you can find Splenda on, we supply Palace Mall, so all the Palace Malls throughout the country have Splenda. We also have a shop in Kaneshi, so for those that would like to buy bulk and, resell, retail, we have a shop in Kaneshi. We're on Jumia. You can follow us on our social media pages, Splenda Ghana on FB, Facebook, and Instagram. We also have numbers that we would like to put out. Our number is can I go ahead now? Yeah.
You can.
0594 555 600 and 020-215-9603. And we have a third number, 0200-127-380.
Interesting. So what does this look like inside?
You can open that.
Right, great.
Yes.
So that we have a feel of it. Right, so the numbers to call are on your screen. If you're interested in bulk purchasing, you can just reach Mabna and her team and they'll reach out to you. Okay, so there it is.
So these ones come in single serve packets, and each packet like this sweetens like 2 teaspoons of sugar. So as you can see, like the Splenda Original that I'm holding here is just 1 gram. But this 1 gram of Splenda sucralose will sweeten your tea, your coffee, your porridge, or anything else you would like to
So you can have it with anything?
With anything. In fact, at home, I make my own juice, which is, I make lemonade. So fresh lemon, we squeeze it, mix it with water, and then we sweeten it with Splenda so that it's 0 calories, 0 sugar.
Talking about home and making drinks, can children take this?
Children can take this. In fact, when I was first introduced to Splenda, I was a pregnant woman. My doctor introduced it to me because one of the most complicated, one of the most common complications of pregnancy is gestational diabetes. Yeah. And with that, you have to watch your sugar intake and all that. So that's when I started taking it. So it's safe for children, pregnant women, adults, anyone who wishes to use it, just like you would sugar, but without, any health.
So we're told this is very sweet, so you need to do it in moderation. Don't use it like your normal sugar, or else you'll not be able to take what you want to take. And for those of you who run hotels, motels, this is a very nicely packaged, easy way for you to just, put in the rooms for people, and nicely packaged. Great work done by Mabna Webb, who is CEO of Brighter Purpose Group. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
This morning we have been introducing you to Splenda Stevia and Splenda Sucralose, which will help you reduce calories and avoid diabetes and other sugar-related diseases. It's now time for AM Business. Ketsi Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank. Today, some local businesses say they may be forced to shut down due to high cost of utility tariffs. Here's James Ishon's report.
Creditor, for 2 weeks, before say best solution. Amount for 2 weeks and not 3 weeks. Now better than the commander, so be you profit Kakrana was what the aqua commander. The Oko Bank now, months need to less away now, or more percentage number. We saw our own bank of a book quote in a tie. I can see a baby can't rough work as yet your goose. Yes, society and your bread.
These were some concerns of Hajia Fati. She has been operating a co-store for nearly 10 years, but she informs me that she will cease operations in March 2023. She claims if she had known that things would pan out this way, she would not have ventured into the cold store business.
The system because they say
now, the cold store industry is in terrible shape. You can't buy more since a carton of fish or meat costs over 300 cedis when it used to be a little over 100 cedis.
400 cartons, I say, what about down to 29, 28? Imagine, 10 or 11 here. What for? Any day, any grow. Yeah, say,
The cold store is always losing money as a result of the increase in tax rates. Meanwhile, she claims that some of the employees are eager to physically assault her in exchange for payment.
I am unsure about how things would turn out for us if we add this increment. I anticipate ceasing operations soon. I am unable to pay the workers. I still owe them money in 3 or 4 months arrears. They are aware of the predicament we are in.
Oh, they complain a lot.
They do, however, occasionally complain. Some people will beat you up sometimes, but what can I do?
I'm telling you, brother.
As a mother, the costs for my ward this term were unthinkable.
They are pushing us. Government no share your human because Nancy yet to say yet to tin your manos by new manos so much in a peja
as quickly as feasible. The The banks are not an option since we can see their staff pursuing us for their money as if it were intentional.
From the Malamata market, I visited some bookbinders. At exactly 8 a.m., Mr. Muzu and his employees have started binding some books while some are ready for the market. Into Mr. Muzu, The increase in tariffs will compel him to lay off some of these workers.
Last year, since the children have returned to school, we are now conducting business. Although last year was pretty concerning, we are coping this year.
7 cedi last year and 15 cities, 17 cities. That is supply. In the local market, in the promotion 20 cities near the Ama yen production na ye go more na academy. Enko already na kasa no. Nema ne bo, nema ne to na kasa ne bo ayede. Nti say aban sama almost a day, sa entumo no sama be kan yen electricity ni yen water bill no. Na je say me nyini say a month be a meter light more than 5,000. It depending a Jumasi running day and night.
With this increase, I would need to buy more than 7,000 cedis worth of electricity each month to run our operations, leaving us with no choice but to pass the cost on to customers in order to cover our costs.
And it's a bank 7,000 plus. Now, it's our cost in the so now I say me the can me books production no na price no e cost. Nti e be hard dream papa e be hard dream.
To save local businesses is pleading with the government and the PURC to postpone the increment.
No dear, say I can say one consider challenges na one more day aban. Me my family dear, me hunisa because one consider still now about to metia. Amana me so media egu enema na yeton no eso. Nti ebema nema no akosoro. Nti say bibi wo ho no ma say omoye.
I doubt they gave the current economic difficulties any thought. If they had, they would have delayed their decision for a while.
Now, so now, but my America cra, I'm an ema to ye and sana on the sign a desa or how no sasa be kan one electricity bill another way, water we need about kan one. A banche na omon twintwen so kakra na nema mu engo kakra. Enya sa dia.
The government should begin consulting with the PURC about the future.
Already no. Be brina into goods. So mo free ha no mo na mo ko bisa schools no schools mo krampa.
Most parents just buy a few books for their children, which isn't beneficial for young kids.
What 4 6 no to minto. But me so no to me mo adesua no because akolabia say bia every subject bia be nya the book. Na say every there want me to have crampo or manager enye nti yesra ban already na kasa no de ewo mu no ano ya den on hwe ho asem no monka some real light in the water there yesra o food yesra.
My next stop was at the door of Abena Pukia, a disabled person who makes do with the meager income she receives from selling pipe-borne water. One may assume that the increase in utility cost would bring her more money, but she claims that it will instead deter others from coming to buy the water from her so she can make some more money.
For the past 3 years, I have been selling water. It was okay when I first started selling water compared to now. People seem to be having a lot of difficulty, which has impacted all of us. People now even purchase water on credit. Given that they are a regular customer, you would have no choice but to accept.
She explains to me that individuals who would typically buy 3 buckets per day are now content with 1 bucket.
Some people even go a week without purchasing or paying for any water. If the increase goes into effect, it will have a huge impact on me. As a result, even though water is a necessity, the business would be expensive because every expansion would require me to likewise raise mine. Since the going is tough, we want the government to step in. Although we realize they can't change anything, if there are any steps that can be taken to help stabilize the situation, I believe they should be taken right away.
But and shall do go a form said Ubia who bet me at on one. You bet me a use so I see a use at the Yenuma, ye.
Most businesses are unsure of how to respond to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission's announcement regarding an increase in the end user tariff for electricity and water. For Joy Business, James Eshen.
That was AM Business, brought to us kind courtesy EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. You're still watching the AM show. I'm Bernice Lansah. We're just about wrapping up the show, but before we do that, we thought we would bring back that story about schools of shame, the second episode of that series put together by our features editor, Jojo Kobner. And he features the Pandai district, where a lot of children do not have access to furniture. Well, the district education officer there says the situation is critical.
We are not sparing any efforts to make education in Ghana of the best quality and fit for the needs of the 21st century. Poverty should not be an excuse for any Ghanaian child not to reach their full potential.
The subjects and the what? The dates, okay?
Bashiru Nuruddin speaks for about 7,000 children without desk in the Pandai district.
What is disturbing us is we don't have furniture. Sometimes when we are coming to school, we feel bored. We don't even feel to come to school because we don't have furniture. If we dress and come to school, you come and sit on the floor, your things will be dirty. So we are begging the government to give us chairs.
Every morning, these children carry stools and plastic chairs on their heads and head to school. Many of these children have walked several kilometers just to access school. Their school, Balai DA Primary School in the Pandai district of the Northern Region, has no furniture, so their parents bought plastic chairs for them. Today is very important to these pupils. They have to write the end of their third term examinations. This examination is critical for them as it will determine whether they will be promoted to the next class or not. To avoid being late, some ride their bicycles hurriedly to school. Those who are fortunate settle in their chairs, but the majority of them go down on their knees, not as a form of worship, but to write exams. Those with plastic chairs put their exam papers on their lap and write, while others kneel and put their exams papers on their chairs. With time, tiredness sets in, and many who were sitting on the bare floor start to kneel. As time progresses, some change their positions and then lie on their bellies and begin to write. The Harmattan strong winds blow dust into the classrooms and settles on the children on the floor. 3 pupils sit on a bench. They face different directions while they continue writing the examinations. It is therefore impossible for these pupils to do independent work without copying or engaging in examination malpractice. Exams papers become dirty, school uniforms also become dirty. Nuruddin is not happy that they bathe and wear clean uniforms only for them to sit on the dirty bare floor.
When we come and sit on the floor, our things will be dirty. The next day, when you go home, you would like to wash your things, but your parents will not agree for you to wash the things because the soap is now, all things are now critical. You don't have money to buy soap. Every day when you come to school, you go and you want to wash your things, your parents will not agree.
Some of them, they come to school, they lie down, within some few days, their uniforms are dirty. Some of them, they can't even concentrate well. Imagine you lying on the floor and writing. You can't concentrate, and more to the point, those who are at the back, those who have the plastic chairs, they always come and take the front classroom, or maybe the front seat. And those who are lying at the back, they have to be at the back. And imagine this is a challenge for them.
Nuruddin's concern is corroborated by another student.
My name is Njoti Alice. I am in class 6. I want to be a lady. I want to be a nurse. When we are writing examination like this, we kneel on floor and write exams. After I finish writing, your paper will get dirty. If you went home and you want to take soap, your parents doesn't allow you to take it. They will say every time you wash your uniform, and we say now soap are now expensive.
To avoid being dirty, one pupil brought a cloth from the house and slept on it. The children admitted that lying on the bare floor makes them lazy and sometimes sleepy.
When master is teaching, when we are sitting on the floor, we feel sleepy. We don't feel excited at all.
A child lying down and writing, that shouldn't have been the normal position of the child when it comes to the teaching and learning. So if the child is found in that, in that way, then at the end of the day, the child may just be carried away. And before you realize, he or she might be sleeping or maybe off from the teaching and learning activities.
Teachers complained the pupils have terrible handwritings because of their sitting posture. Kasim Abdullahi Yajid is the headmaster of Balai DA Primary School.
We reported to the GES office and then copied to the assembly, and they actually assured and promised that they were going to get a furniture for us. They even promised that any little opportunity they get with respect to supplying furniture to the various schools, our school will not be left out.
Kindergarten teacher Bernice acknowledges that parents are trying their best to provide for their children, but cannot go the full haul. She wants government to step in.
First, when I came, I thought it was only my class, which is KG1, that are maybe they feel like they are small and they're supposed to be on the floor whilst writing. But as I went around this whole campus, I realized that even upper primary, they are all lying down and writing. We also need teaching and learning materials. Sometimes, even though they've brought enough, but especially my class, for instance, we need like slates or maybe colors or things that will entice them, so that when they come to school and see them, like the next day they'll be coming to school.
Balai is not the only school in the Pandai district without furniture. The district education officer of the Pandai district, Yao Safo, paints a gloomy picture of the furniture situation.
For most of the primary schools, they have just 3-unit classrooms. So you find that most of the pupils have classes either under any or in sheds that are located. The district has always for our schools, and even just this week they have given us a 250 dual desks to be distributed to the various schools. So 250 dual desks, it translates into about 500 pupils, across the entire district. And the district, as we speak, has a furniture deficit of about 7,000, a little over 7,000. So it means that when, after distributing the furniture that has been provided, there's still a large deficit to be covered.
When they give us class exercise, I'll squat and write. So my knees will they will get sore. So I want the government to give us some furniture so that we can sit on them, so that all these things will not happen to me again.
If you are looking to be in charge of the economy of this country, inshallah, as vice president and head of the economic management team, one needs to be very familiar with the ground. And I'm doing a lot of these trips to really be able to assess for myself, what is the situation, what are the needs?
Until government intervenes, many children will continue to slam it hard on the floor. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
And that is Ghana's Schools of Shame, produced by Jojo Kobna. It's a really, really disturbing story. And he's brought us 2 out of the 4-part series, so we expect more as he focuses on schools that do not have furniture for children. And I was just telling Benjamin as we were watching these kids, especially the one Benjamin, who said that he has to squat to write, and we saw his knees. And I said to myself, children deserve the very best of everything.
It's not just shameful, it is despicable, it is utterly disgraceful. It is a slur on all of us that we have schools like that with children doing that. How can our leaders, or should I call them misleaders, and I'm not just referring to the current crop, how do they even sleep at night when you see that on your screens? How do you sleep at night? How does our education minister look at this? And I've been hearing the PRO for the education ministry in recent times, say this and that and that. There are so many problems. How do our leaders even sleep at night? It's shockingly bad. It's shocking. I wouldn't want my child to be like that. So if you see someone else's child, who knows? Our next crop of leaders could be among those that you just saw.
Unless we think that, after all, what's the big deal? Unless that is our attitude to this. And I've heard people suggest, oh, but these people living in their homes, they don't have this, they don't have that. We're trying, it's as though people are justifying the state of the classrooms school, because of the
public system offers them should be better. It should give them some hope.
Some
so that
respite. Exactly.
Even if this is home, school will give me this, but school is even worse.
Exactly, you're right. Well, it's now time to get interactive with you. The number to call 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691. And this morning we have been discussing the shake-up in the NDC's leadership in Parliament. We've been hearing from analysts, we've been hearing from some of the party members. What are your thoughts on this? Yesterday, my colleague Blessed Suga interviewed the chairman of the party, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, who gave us some reasons. Are they tenable? Well, let's hear what you have to think. Also on social media, a lot of you have been reacting to that latest decision by the NDC's executive. And if we're able to pull up that social media comments, we will share them with you. But yeah, Benjamin, so, I mean, basically that's it. This is the country we live in.
No. Quick correction. It's the country we live in, but it's the country we've allowed our leaders to lead us to. Every leadership will lead you somewhere.
Right.
We should have a plan. What is your best case scenario? What would Bernice Lansah want to see in Ghana? Is that where our leaders or misleaders are guiding us to? I feel we're too quiet. We are too docile. It's high time, and again, whenever I say these things, I'm not saying get into any illicit activity, but democratically, we have to whip our leaders in line.
Our first caller is joining from Kumasi. Hello, Akonoba, let's hear you.
Yeah, my people lady, how are you?
Doing great, thanks for asking. Hope you are too.
Yeah, I'm also fine. And you know, my brother, I admire him. He's one of my mentors. You see, the way he asks his questions, I'm really happy. I think he should be a lawyer. Me, actually, I started my law school. But you see, I don't understand why people are ranting about the decision that NDC have made in Parliament. You see, Ghanaians, at times, we have short memory. And you get people who are experts in governance and political circles who will not remember this. You remember Paula Foko and Kobne Japan, when Nana Danka Akufo-Addo, the current president of the Republic of Ghana, and the NPP, when they realized that keeping Afoko and Kobne Japan there will not inure to their victory, they took them out. That is what we call politics. So you see, let's leave the leaders. Who is Samina Idris? Who is Muntaka? Abababen has held this position before. He was taken away. Awaka was also a former a leader of the house. So who is Samina and who is Muntaka? Let the decision, let the decision of the leaders stand. And according to my view, and according to my chairman, he said there was a broad consultation. You know, this is politics. We cannot allow anything to compromise James. I'm telling you.
But you said according to your chairman, are you a member of the NDC?
Yes, I'm a member of the NDC.
Okay.
And I feel proud to be an NDC member. And according to Joseph Seneca, he said they were consulted. The rank and file of the party were consulted. You know what? I am telling Muntaka for them to come out and issue a statement. If they don't issue a statement that in the interest of the party, all those their supporters who are ranting around to calm down because they accept the decision, I will see them as selfish because they cannot be leaders forever. And
right, Akonoba.
Why is it that NPP, Baumia boys, they are being the PRO for Haruna Idris and Muntaka? Why? Why is it not the PRO for Haruna Idris and Muntaka?
Akonoba, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And so I needed to clarify if he was a member of the party because it helps you understand the perspective he's coming from. But let's get on to Facebook because a lot of you have also been sharing your thoughts there with us. And the question was, what do you make of the new leadership of the NDC in Parliament? It comes along with a photo of Dr. Kasiela Tuforsin as minority leader and the others who have been introduced. So let's go quickly to your comments. And Christopher Akantok says, good ones. They are members of the NDC for me. I prefer Mr. Tuforsin and Mr. Haruna Idrisu. Okay, so I don't know if he's trying to say they should have... It should have been the two of them working together instead of taking Haruna Idrisu out altogether. And Godwin says, listening to the explanation given by the chairman, I think this decision was not well thought through. If the reason is because of the 2024 election and if that it will be on economic issues as explained by the chairman, then making Ato the leader is not well thought through. Making Ato a leader is additional work to his position as the head of the economic team, which will rather compromise his focus. Okay, it's quite a write-up there, but I get his point.
But that's the thrust of what he's saying.
There are 5 replies to that. Obviously, you know that it will generate some reaction. But Yusuf is joining us from WA. Let's hear you. Good morning to you. Yusuf, please go ahead and share your thoughts with us.
I think in the quest to lead the NDC, I think every leader has his own dynamic intent. Good morning.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is speaking from. I think every leader has his own direction of how he intends to run the party. You know, prior to the election, you know, Johnson Asante had already raised issues about change of leadership from the constituency level right away to the regional and now the national. That is why he intended to contest as the national chairman for the APC because he had felt that certain changes needed to be kept into place. So after having contested and had won, I think he thinks that the best step taken on further is to change the leadership in Parliament because they are still in certain taxes that have been given to them as parliamentary leadership. But then the prudent question we should be asking ourselves is whether at the time of changes, you know, we do have minority leaders that have been changed from time. Time. I think the question we should be asking is that prior to election, is this the pragmatic or prudent measures in order to change the leader? Now, you must focus on how to, I think, compete with the NPP coming election 2024.
All right.
That should be the measures to put into place rather than now bringing a kind of thing.
Right, Yusuf, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. So, Benjamin, you remember just before we spoke to Yusuf, we took a comment on Facebook where the person was saying that putting Atuforcing or Dr. Atuforcing as leader will make
rather hobble him when it comes to the economy.
Exactly.
This is an interesting response.
So Danjuma is saying Godwin Ajetinahu, good observation, but also recall that the chairman said moving Ato will unearth Adongo as ranking member on finance, whose pedigree in terms of finance and economics is public knowledge. It's our hope and belief that this will help us achieve the ultimate, as the chairman opined. And, well, a lot of more reactions, but let's take some fresh comments.
It appears there's a bit of an exchange
banter.
between
Yes.
Danjuma and Godwin.
Isifu says, great move. If opposition party can reshuffle its leadership, why not the government? And that's another thing, Benjamin, because there are those who believe that this is a power play. The NDC is positioning itself as the one that can take the hard decisions if given the opportunity
You know,
to lead.
mention has been made that even in reshuffling, that they call this a reshuffle when government has not been reshuffled. But a quick one, because of that game, Al-Hassan Yusuf says, this is the plan of Mahama, but tell him that God is the master planner. We have to change Mahama as part of reorganization. So the theories come in again.
Well, our next caller is joining us from the Northeast region. Al-Hassan is his name. Hello, Al-Hassan. Good morning. Let's hear you quickly, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think the changes made, they haven't taught... Hello? Hello?
Hello, Al-Hassan, we can hear you.
I think they haven't thought through it seriously, because there are certain factors you consider when you're making changes. Hello?
Al-Hassan, please, can you mute your television set? Listen to me over the phone, please.
One, they haven't considered religious background of the people they are moving. And this, two, the timing is wrong.
So what timing would you have preferred?
Yes, they should have done it after their primaries. It should have been done after the primaries, but not now.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Al-Hassan is joining us from the Northeast region. Very interesting.
A bit about religion comes in again. And like we forcefully said, I mean, religion should not play any role in this matter.
Well, Frank Gamo says if the old hand members in the community will not damage the party. I'm not sure what he's trying to say there. But Ghana and Take It True, that's a very interesting one, says, Haruna Idrisu was doing very well against the opposition NPP. Osman Mahama says, I have so much confidence in the new leadership. And Dongzala Isaac says, I was arguing with an NPP supporter because he said old wine, but in new bottles. I beg they should hold... Okay. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, Dongzala. Ajekum Kwame says, if the government fails to reshuffle, the NDC will school them. There again, there are those who think this is just an issue of making a statement that they are the party that can make the tough decisions. Well, Tahiru is joining us from the Upper East region. Hello, Tahiru, let's hear you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, I want to the people to come down because NDC, they didn't trust the leadership of the Haruna Idrisu. And if we don't trust somebody going forward, what is go next? We have to do adjustment. And you have to bear in mind that 2002 is a very good guy. He can do the work. So they will get behind him, support him to go forward.
Right. Thank you for joining us. Amonu says, rumble nature of doing things will later lead to we lost because there was no teamwork. You can have the prominent executives, but bitterness created by such means can hurt your electoral fortunes. Remember,
same way, later, if it works out, they would say yes, and they made the strong decisions that had to be made. But so it's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street, but remember, Dr. Druman answered that when we said, moving forward, what should the party do?
Right.
And how can the party ensure this does not create acrimony and factions? You know, so there are those who may hold their loyalty to Haruna Idrisu, who may not necessarily want to support Dr. Kaseyala Atoforse.
But I love the way the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, has, taken to the matter, addressing it. We'll take another caller. We have Yogdu from Tamale. Hello, Yogdu.
Yes, good morning, Chief.
Good morning. What are your quick thoughts for us?
Yes, my name is Yogdu from Tamale.
Go ahead with your thoughts, please.
Yeah, in fact, just on the reshuffle, I was listening to Hello?
Yogdu, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Too bad we lost him there. Please, when you call us, mute your television set. Listen to us over the phone so you can hear us in real time and there's no delay. But back onto Facebook, Musa Abubakar says, that's good, but they dare not compromise like the outgoing leadership. Once again, we said that there are those who feel that this is not just about the 2024 elections. There are concerns about whose bid really Haruna Idrisu was working towards. But it says, why will they always be fooling us outside, and when they go in every issue, the opponent is always finding a way out? Odishiaba says, very fantastic decision by the party leadership. We have Ishmael from Bawe. He will be our last caller. Hello, Ishmael, let's hear you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to talk on the school.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Relating to the schools that are having issues
with furniture. Hello, Ishmael.
Oh, it's sad because I was looking forward to what he would say about that situation. We've had a lot of them talking politics. It would have been interesting to find out what he would say. I think our first caller, though, took a swipe at that as well.
Well, that'll be all time will allow us. But once again, Benjamin and I are grateful that you could join us this morning. And before we go, let me do it.
Okay. I thought you had.
We need to wish Benjamin's mother a happy birthday, and thank you so much for this gift you gave us. Benjamin, why are you? This is not your birthday, why are you so excited?
I'm excited for my mom.
All right. We are really grateful, and this is no flattery. Thank you so much for the gift of Benjamin and raising him up to be who he is, confident and blunt with everything that he does. We are grateful. And to you, we pray for long life, so you live long enough to see Benjamin do what we've all been wishing for him to do. I won't say that on air, but I pray.
Now you're bordering on mischief.
Mom, we pray that God blesses you with long life and prosperity. And hopefully we meet one of these days to celebrate a big 70 in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You want to tell us your mother? Tell the world your mother's name, or you want to keep it discreet?
Oh, Susie Akakpo. I mentioned it the first time. I mentioned it earlier. Susie.
Benjamin is blushing. It's not even his birthday. Hey, all right. Thank you so much. If today's your birthday as well, we wish you a very happy birthday, and we pray for long life for you as well. So you continue to join us to help this nation get better with the conversations that we have here every morning. Before we go, though, water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through its strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions: 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. Here's what to do for bulk purchasing. Call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved.
And I have to stun you because there's another one. It comes through from our very own Samuel Mbura. And he says, today is World Sewa Day. You know how we do it. So this day has been made beautifully for you, my fighting partner, cheerleader, superwoman. And it also says, I can't thank God enough for having you by my side always. Your creator will surely grant your secret prayers. Keep brightening every corner. Happy, happy birthday to you, Joycelyn Ajay Boateng. Okay. I have to probe this one from Samuel Mbura because the way it's framed.
You to give us one to probe.
When MFR gets in, MFR poll.
News Desk is up next. Thanks for your company once again. Goodbye.